I can't hear them, Ella.
No, I can't hear Paula.
I can hear you, Chris.
Oh, now I can hear you. I couldn't hear you when you were talking before.
Paula,
Okay,
can you-
if it happens again, Kristen, just pick up. You have everything?
Yep.
Am I coming from two speakers right now?
No, one speaker.
Yeah, one on mine too.
Okay. Anyway, let me try to read this. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Fort Lee Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published on January 15, 2021, and posted on the district website at www.flboe.com. Published in the board's designated online media outlet, The Record, filed with the clerk of the Borough of Fort Lee, and mailed to all persons, if any, who have requested said notice. Please be advised that this meeting is being taped and may be broadcasted on local TV and the district's website at a future date. The Open Public Meeting Act allows for remote participation at board meetings and defines the word meeting as any gathering, whether corporal or by means of communication equipment, which is attended by or open to all of the members of a public body, held with the intent on the part of the members of the body present to discuss or act as a unit upon the specific public business of that body. Could we have roll call, please?
Ms. Byers-King?
Here.
Joe?
Here.
Ms. Han Silver?
Here.
Ms. Morel?
Holly, you're muted.
Ms. Rick?
Here.
Ms. Ramba?
Here.
Mr. Rubino?
Here.
Ms. Stasu?
Here.
Ms. Colback?
Here.
You have quorum.
Okay. The board convened in executive session at 6:30 PM today to discuss legal, personnel, and other confidential matters. Mr. Rhoda, will you begin with your superintendent's report, please?
Thank you, Mrs. Colback. I'll start with our HIB report. We had 3 reported investigations since the last meeting. All 3 of those investigations were founded. The students were involved in a variety of follow-up activities that were shared with the board in the closed session. Number 2, I would like to just give a brief update about school status. The schools are still moving in a hybrid model. We have moved successfully at elimination of the remote Wednesdays, and that seems to be working well. The administrators are working hard to hopefully take the next step in a short amount of time to move towards more in-person instruction for the students K to 12. So hopefully we'll be able to move forward with that in the near future. I received some good information from the health department that our numbers in town have dropped somewhat, while Fort Lee in the Northeast region still remains in the orange category, which is high risk. We're hoping that the numbers across the board will continue to drop, and that'll allow us to move forward with our plans to increase in-person time in the schools. So that's our goal, and hopefully we'll be able to make that move in the very near future.
Thank you.
I did want to address one. I received a question from a board member regarding the state required testing. As of now, the Department of Education in New Jersey has not requested a waiver from the federal government for required testing. And we have been told, which has been indicated by the federal government, that they will not issue such waivers. They're going to ask states to be creative and allow flexibility, but are not going to provide just an overall waiver on the testing. So for now, we are still planning to do some type of testing. We're still waiting to get more details from the New Jersey Department of Education as to what that requirement will be, what it will look like. Originally, they had set out that there will be a data collection, so we're working on that as well, but the testing is a whole nother thing. So as of now, we are still obligated to conduct the testing in some format. We're just waiting for more clearance and more guidance from the Department of Education of New Jersey and also from the federal department. I know that there are groups that are still lobbying very hard to eliminate the testing altogether. The next agenda item is the preliminary budget presentation. This is something that we usually do. To be honest, I would much prefer to be in front of you, standing up doing this, but we'll have to do it this way. So Ms. Taylor is going to share the budget presentation. We're going to go through there, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions related to the preliminary budget.
Okay, Ken, are you going to start or shall I?
I will start, Ms. Taylor, and then we'll work back and forth as always.
Okay.
Our budget prep begins early in the year, in the fall, in November, meeting with our principals, supervisors, and directors, all of our different cost centers, to determine what are the needs for the next coming year. We go work with them, individual meetings in each building and each cost center to review their proposals, to review their ideas, and also to make sure that they are adequately budgeted in all areas so we can continue to move forward. Those aspects of the budget are reviewed with members of the board through committee meetings. And then we come up to tonight's preliminary budget discussion for the public and for the board as well. On March 20th, we will be required to submit our preliminary budget to the county superintendent in review. And then the final budget will be have to be submitted sometime in May, prior to the May 12th date.
Okay, so revenues. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so revenues, this screen is pretty telling. On the screen, we share all of our sources and our streams of revenue, which the primary is the tax levy. We are happy to report this year the tax levy is down from the previous 3 years' percentage increases at the cap, which is 2%. So we are planning to raise around $69.5 million in tax levy for the 21-22 year. The next revenue source is what we call revenue in lieu of taxes, or what some of us may call pilot funding. As we have discussed in the past, we're excited to partner with the town. The town pays us pilot funding, which is over and above the 2% cap. And so it's not mandated. So we are also happy to report, I spoke with Al Restaino last week, I believe, and we are on board for the next 3 years of pilot funding and funding amounts. So the amount for the fiscal year 21-22 year is $533,000.
Sorry to interrupt. I think we have a lot of people on, and I think they might not know what pilot money is.
Okay, so you want to share, Esther, or shall I?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so when towns and municipalities offer tax breaks to developers to encourage development, oftentimes they discount or they waive certain amounts of the taxes. And so you have developers that have invested in the town and are not necessarily paying taxes to the town. And as we know from a school board perspective, the majority of our revenue comes from tax levy. So what the pilot allows, again, is it encourages development in towns, but it does discount or waive taxes for a certain amount of years, oftentimes 30 years. And so again, towns can offer, and this is before it was talked about widely. Fort Lee was already on board and worked with our board members to identify amounts that they would contribute over and above the tax levy to basically realize that there are students coming from these buildings. In fact, I think right now we have about close to 80 or 90 students coming from some of these developments where there is pilot funding. So good question, Esther. Pilot funding encourages development and waives taxes.
A couple of sentences to that, Hakisha.
Sure.
Just make it even more elementary. I mean, pilot stands for payment in lieu of taxes, and it's an amount that our municipality agrees that the developers will pay on certain properties. And here it's primarily the redevelopment area up by the George Washington Bridge. And when they agree on that pilot amount, which in and of itself, even though it's not what they would pay in full taxes, it's a reduced amount, it's still significant. The municipality has no obligation whatsoever to pay the school board anything. This is all true partnership where our municipality knows that none of the monies from that property will be paid to the school budget. And they recognize that that's a hardship. And so they are prepared to share some of that. And many communities across the state, Jersey City and many others that are heavily under development and that are getting the pilot funds, their school boards don't get anything. So, I mean, I'm very thankful on behalf of, our board that we do have this relationship with our mayor and council and that they're prepared to share not small sums. I think the amount you said was over $500,000 just for next year alone. That doesn't include what we got this year and what we'll get the following year.
Yes, agreed. Agreed. And I speak with a lot of peers, other BAs. And again, as Paula mentioned, this is not something that many towns are doing. So kudos to the mayor and council. Our next revenue source is state aid. And our state aid has increased year over year, 24%. Also, due to the governor's commitment to fully fund districts. As many of you know, we are an underfunded district, and what that means is based on the School Funding Reform Act, or SEFRA, we are due more monies than we are paid. And so what Governor Murphy has committed to do is, I think over 7 years, essentially begin to right that ship. This year, or for 21-22, we are planning to receive almost $4 million in state aid. So that continues to go in the right trajectory. Extraordinary aid, we budget flat. Miscellaneous revenue, you may see, is down 26%. That miscellaneous revenue is down because our facility usage and some of the items that contribute to that bucket are down due to the pandemic. Our tuition amounts are flat. Capital reserve withdrawal, we'll talk about this in depth in a couple more slides, but we are planning to do $3.1 million in upgrades. And we're really proud of the work we've been able to do without referendum, without having to go out to the taxpayers again and ask for referendum and huge amounts of money. But we've been able to make huge headway because of our saving, because of our commitment essentially to improving the facilities of the school. So we're happy about our capital reserve number. ESEA, IDEA, and state entitlements, that's our federal grants. We budget that. We are advised to budget that at 80% of the current year award, and that is because the federal government can at any time, change the amount that they grant. So we budget that at 80% of the current. And then SR2. SR2 funding came out most recently, I think Diane was mentioning, maybe less than 2 weeks ago. And so we feverishly worked to use those fundings for various reasons. One of them being we weren't eligible for any waivers this year, so the funding assisted. A lot of the supplies and services that we have in the current year, that we're projecting in the 21-22 budget is related to COVID. So we are excited about the 1.2 million that we were able to build into the budget on such short notice. And then lastly, we have our debt service aid and our debt service tax levy. Our debt service tax levy is down. When we were going through the presentation earlier today, Ken reminded me or asked, why is that down? And it reminded me that we actually refunded our bonds this year. So we'll be saving over $60,000 per year for the life of those bonds because of the refunding that we did. So that was a good call. Appropriations, this slide simply shows the demarcation of where we spend our money. Most of it is in the current expense. So that's salaries, that's benefits, that's special education, it's transportation. And then we show our capital expense and the special revenue and the debt service. So this year's budget is 85.3 the budget we're projecting is 85.3 million. Ken, you want to talk about the annual tax increase?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Taylor. This is the slide that everybody is most interested in hearing the actual numbers. For this year, or I should say for the 21-22 school year, based on an assessed value of a home at $472,000, that's the median assessed value of homes in Fort Lee, the property tax increase would be $81.85 for the year. That represents a 2% increase from the previous year. If you calculate in the debt service tax levy as in a negative, the actual tax impact for the homeowners is about 1.71%. We're pretty happy that we're able to bring this in. If you see over the past 2 years, the property tax increase has been well over $100 both years, and we've been able to cut that down to $81 for this year due to some very conservative budgeting in the past and creative budgeting, and also the use of those ESSER funds that we received and additional state funding, which were very helpful. So those are the critical numbers, as we always like to share those. Next, our capital reserve. These are our proposed capital reserve projects for next year. The way this works is we keep a list of facility projects in the district, and we try and reprioritize every year based on what we think needs to be addressed. So you'll see here there are several projects with a totaling of $3.1 million roughly, and they are repairing the retaining wall on the front of the high school on the sidewalk. The wall is in somewhat of disrepair and needs to be repaired. The drainage behind it also needs to be repaired. Anybody who has walked across that sidewalk in the winter knows what it's like because of the drainage problems and the ice forming on the sidewalk. So we're hoping to repair that with this project. Also, we have several HVAC upgrades in the high school area. This is the first floor and the second floor on the west wing and the first floor in the east wing. This HVAC includes heating and air conditioning upgrades. Right now, we have significant heating issues on those areas of the high school building. So we're looking to repair those and replace those and bring that up to where it should be. Additionally, we are going to repair the window wall on the west side of the high school, which is above the new weight room that was constructed. The window wall there has been leaking into the school. We need to repair that by replacing it. We've had several people look at that. The only alternative really is to replace that area on the western exposure. Additionally, we would like to continue our AC work at schools 1 and 3. As you may recall, in the past, we have done a good part of those buildings, increasing HVAC and AC in both of those buildings. And now, if we complete these projects, it'll bring both of those buildings to well over 80% being air conditioned. So we'll be able to really move forward and make it safer and more comfortable for the teachers and for the students, obviously, as well.
Right. And then I'd like to add, Ken, one of the things that Ken spoke about initially was we talk about this through the committee process. So the B&G committee members who are, of course, here with us today have also weighed in and seen this list, et cetera. So we feel like it's a pretty comprehensive list of priorities.
And a lot of times these projects are not the most popular and what we'll say the sexiest, because you don't see a lot of things happening, but there's a lot happening below the scenes that are very important for the health and welfare of everybody, for safety factors. So we look at that and along those lines. The next slide is a list of some of these projects we've completed within the last 3 or 4 years recently. And these projects do not include monies that were spent through the referendum in the building projects. These are separate things we have funded through capital projects, or also just through the budget. We've installed security vestibules or the man traps at all the schools that didn't have them. We've made roofing repairs at several of the elementary schools that were in need of that. We have removed flooring and carpeting, repaired flooring and removed carpeting in all the schools throughout the district. This is an ongoing project. We're still working on it. The goal is to remove all the carpeting throughout the district. We're getting close now. We've had parking improvements. You'll see at schools 2 and 4, the middle school, intermediate school, and the high school. We replaced the lighting throughout all schools with LED lighting, not only for utility's sake, but also for cost. We will end up saving a significant amount of money with the LED lighting replacements. We've added perimeter lighting in all the buildings. We've done significant window replacement repair at School 1. School 2 and 3, the front staircase panels were replaced this year, and also the west courtyard windows at the high school. We've done sidewalk and curbing repair at a number of the schools, 1, 3, and 4 specifically. Just this year, we finished removing the child study team trailer from School 1. We've had some HVAC additions and repairs at schools 1 and 3, and also school 1 and 3 other areas. As I mentioned earlier, we've done a lot of HVAC work there. At the high school, we have renovated the media center, the locker room, and replaced the student lockers that were desperately in need of replacing. So there's been some very positive work done there as well. And there's always work to be done on the clock tower at the high school, some roof repair and some work on the high school facade that needed to be done just due to time and deterioration. So there's a lot of projects that get done that are done through, like I said, through these capital projects or also through the operating budget. And we're able to maintain the district and hopefully keep moving forward and improving the district. These projects do not include any emergent projects that we deal with on a daily or weekly basis and that are subject to having at least 2 buildings that are closing in on 100 years old. When you have those buildings, you do have plumbing and electrical issues that we deal with regularly, but we're not talking about those. Those are monies that we come out of the budget. These are projects that we are planning to address and hopefully will be successful in addressing for the next year. I added this slide in because I thought it was important to show how our enrollment has been changing and will continue to change. On the bottom, the x-axis, you'll see those are the grades 1 through 12. On the top, the y-axis shows our present student enrollment. So we have a senior class of roughly 256 in grade 12. And you'll see the big increase in grade 11 for next year is well over 300. We have a slight dip in the 10th and 9th grade in the high school, still more than we have at the senior class this year. So we're still showing an increase over this year's graduating group. But after that, from 8th grade down, you see that number is steadily well over 300 and maintains that. And it's not a bubble, it's more of the tide is coming in. And we knew this was coming. That was the reason for building the intermediate school, that grade 5, 6 building. And that was the reason for other building projects that have been done down there. Now those students are starting to come up and be reaching the high school. And this relates to our staffing needs, as you'll hear when I talk about in a minute, the need for increased staffing. Over the past several years, we've increased staff at the elementary and the middle, at the intermediate school. We've increased staffing levels there due to student enrollment. Now with those number of students coming up to the high school, we need to increase our staffing there so we can successfully address the students there as well. So you'll see this proposed budget includes adding 10 new teachers across the district. Now, 6 of those teachers are needed to make our special ed program be in compliance with state mandates. Federal special education classes have maximum number of students that can be in there. And because of our increased enrollment across the board, we will be adding at least 4 new programs for special education students. And each one of those requires a teacher. The other teachers we're focusing at the high school level because we need to address some of our basic needs up there. We need to add a world language teacher. We need to add a science teacher and also some special ed teachers up there to meet the needs as it is. There are certain classes that all students must take to meet the graduation requirements. So we're trying to target those areas that hit every student, such as the science and all the world language requirements that we have up there. So those teachers are in there. We are adding 14 paraprofessionals or aides. The paraprofessionals, the number is a little misleading because those 14 people are all part-time employees. So really it's kind of like 7 that we're adding here. That is due to a negotiated increase with the contract that was negotiated last year. So to cover the needed time provided for the paraprofessionals, we need to hire more staff so we can adequately cover the terms of the deal in the negotiated contract. We are planning to add a bus driver And the bus driver is an important position because it allows us to transport more of our students ourselves. We are planning to purchase additional vehicles before the end of this year so that we can add to our transportation of our own students, predominantly special education students, but also we can provide transportation for a lot of our co-curricular activities, such as athletics, which we normally charter out. So by paying with one more bus driver, it allows us to address a lot of those needs and handle it in-house rather than have to go out. And my proposal in the budget is also to add a principal in the district. My proposal is to add a full-time principal at the Lewis Cole Intermediate School. So there would be a principal at the middle school and the intermediate school in September moving forward. These are all, as I said, proposed staffing moves that we are in this budget. You'll see this budget fact sheet is something we put together every year just to kind of give some highlights. This budget maintains our existing academic program and supports. We are adding new courses at the high school in Korean 2 honors, Korean 3 honors, Korean 4 honors. That'll make the Korean language study on par with our other language studies at the high school. We're also adding a class in law and society, professional communications, race, gender, and equity, and also visual storytelling. You know, these new courses come out of interest from the students and also from the staff, and we try and strike things that we think will be, you know, popular and get students enrollment. I think the Korean, like I said, the Korean classes will put that language study in the same level with our other ones. The law and society is kind of a pre-law class, which should be very interesting. I think a lot of students will have interest in that. Professional communications is just as it says, a communications class, but it involves electronic communication, written communication, and so many other ways that we communicate now. This has really taken off, especially in the last year. And the race, gender, and equity is a class that is much needed. It is a retitling of a class that presently exists at the high school with a different focus on these 3 topics. Visual storytelling, once again, it's a communication style class to encourage the students' strength in electronic communication skills. The budget reflects our increased costs in special ed, staffing, out-of-district tuition, related services, and transportation costs. Those costs continue to rise every year. Some of them are out of our control. For example, out-of-district tuition, we are informed by the county and the state what tuition rates will be. It's not something we get to negotiate. It also supports our special needs students with additional adaptive and therapeutic equipment and services and supplies as required. The new budget will also support our expanding our one-to-one initiative down to students in grade 5. So in the past, we have purchased devices, Chromebooks for all 7th grade students, and those students were using those through 12th. Based on the technology available now, we thought it'd be more advisable to start students in 5 and then replace them in 9 so that the students will have more up-to-date and more usable equipment. Also provides to updating portable devices for staff. That's what became an issue during the pandemic. We wanted to make sure staff had sufficient devices to be able to run everything remotely if necessary. This budget also continues to develop and enhance our district curriculum to keep us in line with the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. This year, we're facing curriculum revisions in the K-12 world language area and also K-12 visual and performing arts. So that work will begin in the summer with the teachers reviewing and creating curriculum and then implementing in the fall. It provides for our Rubicon Atlas and a curriculum management program. It's something that maintains our curriculum and keeps it in a usable format for all the staff. It also will continue to enhance and develop our STEAM programs, K-12, as that program goes on. The budget includes licenses for our online curriculum programs, books and resources, math and social studies, for example, IXL, Raz Kids, Nucella, Brain Pops. These are some of the things you may be familiar with. Some new ones that we've come up with this year during the pandemic are Cami and Ed Puzzle. Those things are being regularly used. And we are buying district licenses to save money rather than going out individual buildings or teachers. It also supports a license for our formative benchmark assessment program, which is a STAR Renaissance program we use all the way through the district to do our benchmarking. Supports our gifted program, honors, our IB and AP programs, and also our academic intervention programs. This budget also supports the provision of additional instruction and mental health services to address the impact of COVID-19. We are looking to set up more instructional services. The mental health services have been provided as the year has progressed through the counseling department. Resources have been made available, and a great deal of material has been made available to address those needs. We are planning to address more instructional needs, hopefully starting in the summer and then moving into next year. One of the additional costs that we incurred this year also was the updated video conferencing services and the features related to that. As we use Zoom for a variety of things and Google Classroom, there are associated costs, particularly with Zoom and other online formats that teachers are using. This contract provides all contractual obligations with our collective bargaining groups. It maintains our current co-curriculum program, including transportation. It allows us to some security enhancements. We're hoping to add another security guard, update cameras to more digital cameras. We still have some analog cameras. We want to update those. And also the use of the Raptor system, which is the visitor system in all the buildings that is required. The network licenses for our antivirus and our GoGuardian and Firewall programs are also included in this budget, as well as a renewal license for data management systems. Genesis is our student management, as many of you are familiar with. Frontline is our staff attendance, and Hipster is our HIB management. Hipstervention is what we use for our IRS program, and System 3000 is our business and HR software. School Messenger you are all familiar with. That's how you receive your messages at home. And School Dude is a facility usage and facility work order program that the staff uses throughout the district. And you'll see in this,
Go ahead.
Ms. Taylor.
No, go ahead.
You'll see in this state aid revenue, we've included this slide just to show you, some of you may remember, in the 10-11 year, all districts in the state of New Jersey took a significant hit in the amount of state aid they were receiving. But we have slowly but surely been building it back up to the point where we've actually surpassed the level of 9-10 when the cuts came. However, we're still not funded fully according to the adequacy formula that the state uses. Presently, we are about 61% funded according to the state formula. So we're hoping that this continues trending upward as the years go on, and the governor keeps good on his promise to address this and fully fund all the districts. And we also have, these are the budget timelines. Today is our preliminary budget. We will submit this preliminary budget to the county office for approval. We will do a presentation to all the schools and public PTAs and staff on April 12th. That'll probably be in the Zoom format again. And then we'll have a public hearing at our board meeting on April 26th for the final budget. After that, we need to submit the final budget to the county executive for his final approval. And you'll see up here, they're listed the members of our Board of Education for the 21-22 school year. We are moving forward with a lot of different plans, and hopefully this budget, if it goes through, will enable us to really address that. Now, are there any questions from the board members regarding budget or this presentation? I know I tried to go quickly. A lot of it is included in the budget highlights that I sent you last week to review. But if there are any questions, Ms. Taylor and I are happy to address them.
So Tanya has her hand up. You're muted, Tanya.
Yeah, sorry. I do have a quick question. There's a wonderful presentation. I don't know how you got through all that, but will the middle school, I saw there's lots of HVAC upgrades throughout the district. Is the middle school anywhere in that, in the workings for those?
It's on the list, it's in the plan, but not for this year coming up. But yes, we do definitely, we try and assess the needs based on the severity of each situation. And we felt our priority needed, one thing was to finish what we started in schools 1 and 3, and then keep moving forward. So I think HVAC issues will be on our capital projects every year moving forward for the next several years.
Okay, and then my second question is, in the event that there's not, and we know that that old wing of the middle school, the airflow isn't that good. Do we have money somewhere in the district where we could get more of the air purifiers or things that could help in those situations?
Yeah, we've installed a large number of air purifiers in the district already that are basically COVID related. The goal would be to eventually install one in every classroom.
Okay.
So we're moving in that direction. That's not even on here. It's just something being done by our maintenance department.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you, Mr. Rhoda.
Andy?
And I just wanted to ask about the working on the fields. Is that in this year's budget? Is that why you didn't see them on there?
It's in this year's. That's in the 2021 budget. Those were capital projects that were approved
Okay.
last year. So they're in
All right.
progress. And some of the
Losing
updates-
track of time, yeah.
Unfortunately, several of our projects got held up in Trenton for approval down there for several months. So we're waiting to hear back and we're ready to move forward. We put out some projects to bid recently and we're ready to move as soon as we get approval from Trenton.
Okay, Julene?
I had a question about the air conditioning at school 3. Do we have a time frame on when that's going to be done? Will it be done like for this spring, for next year, for when they come back in September?
Well, this is the 21-22 budget. So any work would have to be done after July 1.
Okay,
But realistically, it will probably be done during the course of the next school year and be hopefully ready for the spring of 22.
okay, that's what I was going to ask. The other thing is, after all of the critical things, the gym at the middle school is also very antiquated, and our sports go on there, and we're like, when we bring in other schools, they're like, looking at it, and I feel like that needs some upgrades.
Yeah, it's also on the list.
Okay, did I miss that? There was so much information, so I'm sorry.
It's on a list that it didn't make the cut this year, but we are aware of it.
Okay.
And it's
Okay.
something we will be addressing in the future.
I know they're obviously health-related, more important things, but I wanted to add that. Thank you.
Esther?
Sure. One question. I know you went on the list for this year's capital projects, well, for the upcoming budget. You had that retaining wall repair. Is that the cost to do the entire wall, the entire length of the wall from like the field all the way through the parking lot? Or is it just like a section? That's
No,
like
it's not a replacement of the wall. It's repairing the wall in certain spots.
Okay,
We
okay,
had our engineer come out and look at that and give us a proposal. To replace the entire wall would be at least double that amount. So we thought he said he thinks we can get away with doing the repair work in various spots along the length of the wall.
okay. Will that handle the drainage also?
That's part of the goal would be to fix the drainage problem that we've discovered there.
Okay, yeah, because I think anyone in the public who walks that stretch of Lemoyne Avenue in the winter
Mhm.
will, I think, be grateful for any fix of the drainage, because after every melt and then it freezes overnight and it just turns into a giant ice rink. The other question I had, the high school HVAC list that you had there, does that also include AC? Because I know you were talking about like the heating. Does that also include AC, or is it just to fix it so that they have working heat?
No, the proposal that we have from our engineer and our architects will be AC and heat.
Okay, all right. I think that's it. I think it's great to expand the one-to-one to provide new Chromebooks from fifth graders all the way to the high school. I know that giving them at the 7th grade and having them last till they graduate, it does kind of strain the capacity of the lifespan of that Chromebook. So I think the idea of doing that at 5th grade and replacing it at 9th grade, I think it's a great idea. And I think it's great for our students that, they're getting a new Chromebook at 5th grade and 9th grade, and they're all getting one. So kudos to be able to do that within this budget, and also keeping it under keeping it at 2%. So thumbs up to everybody. And I think that was it. So.
Anyone else have questions on the budget? So is there any programming that is getting cut?
No.
Okay,
No.
and then are we staying flat, or did we increase in any way our programming for social, emotional type supplements given, the current situation and pandemic?
Well, as I mentioned, we've increased our mental health services quite a bit from last March. The counselors have been actively involved with the students. We've provided a lot of resources, online resources. We've had some parent meetings online, of course, and we've tried to do that. That will be a continuing effort moving forward.
Okay, I would ask that, and I'd say it every single year, that we give some consideration to Ian Hockley's, Dylan's Wings for Change.
That's been a program that's been on my desk since I met Mr. Hockley, and we were planning to roll it out the year of the pandemic, the first year, and we got into it, and then we got distracted a little bit as we were starting to get close to doing it. But that's something I would like to see also. I think it's a very worthwhile program.
I mean, I think we'll benefit because they continue to fine tune it, but as long as it's on the radar, I think it's been well received at the schools that he's rolled it out at, and I'm very fond of him, and I think the program is really good. So
we did actually send a few people to observe the program during this last year. I believe it's running in Riverdale, and
Okay.
they were gracious enough to let us come and observe the program in action so we could get more details.
Beautiful. Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead, Holly.
Yeah, okay, so in continuing with what Paula said, you had mentioned that there was no programs that were discontinued. My question to you is there any funds that are going with this budget for new curriculum?
Yes, I mentioned that we have two big areas of curriculum revision this year will be the K-12 World Language and K-12 Visual and Performing Arts. But I also mentioned several new classes that are being created at the high school.
Law and Society.
Yes, I knew you'd like that one, Ms. Colbath. The law class at the high school, visual, the communications class. We're upgrading the Korean language classes to the honors level, so be there. We're also adding 4 additional special ed programs for next year, based on need of students and certain regulations. We're going to be adding 4 specific different classroom programs throughout the district.
Thank you.
And I would just like to publicly commend Ms. Taylor for her work in putting this budget together, and also Mrs. Baker, who in her work with the grants. As I said in my update, it's great to receive all this grant money. It's a wonderful thing, but it is quite a project to manage it and fit it in and make it work. And they've both done an exceptional job in making all this work smoothly and really helping us move forward and keeping the district moving forward. So I just want to publicly acknowledge that.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
And that's all I have, Ms. Taylor. Ms. Colbath, sorry.
Normally we would ask the public, but I think given our current setup, we'll ask them to ask their budget questions during the normal public session, because don't they get disconnected, Hakisha, after they speak?
Yes.
So we'll ask that maybe if they have questions on the budget, that they do it during the normal public session. So today, everyone must have received dozens of emails that today is International Women's Day. And so Kristen's, I think, going to thank everyone. I'm not going to steal any of her thunder, but she's going to recognize the day and those appropriate individuals in the district.
Thank you. So in recognition of International Women's Day, the board would like to acknowledge all of the influential women who play a role in the lives of our students. On behalf of the board, I would especially like to thank the female educators and staff members of the Fort Lee schools who are changing lives every day, as well as those members of our parent organizations who do so much for our children. And to our students, keep up the hard work and keep pursuing your dreams. We cannot wait to see the inspirational women that you all become.
I'd like to add, I'd like to thank all the women that serve on this board with me as well.
I'd also like to add a few things. I'd like to thank everybody on this board. Thank you for having me. It's been a great honor so far, especially Paula. congratulations. You've been doing an amazing job. You're a great mentor, and I really appreciate you. I also want to thank Gina Reska and Solani Ortega, who have also been doing a fabulous job at the intermediate school. And I would be remiss if I did not mention two teachers that have changed the lives of my children, Mrs. Hong and Mrs. Kathy Arfusa. I want to thank you so much.
Okay, anyone else? I don't want to cut you off, but thank you, Kristen, for taking the lead on that, and thank you for the other comments. Do we have any committee reports?
Okay, so I have several.
Get your popcorn out.
I have several, and I'm going to try to make them all very, very brief because a lot of them have come to fruition already, and so.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is we had a policy committee meeting on February 3rd, and what we talked about was a very important policy having to do with epilepsy, and Ms. Baker wanted it to move quickly because of the importance of it. It had been reviewed by the nurses as well as the district doctor. Diane stated that there is training videos that teachers view, and then they are certified, as well as there's certification that is given to HR. So that's one report. The next report is the Ad Hoc Pandemic Learning Committee. That was on 2/5. I want to thank Kristen for her input because she knows how to do a report like nobody's business. So I'm just going to briefly go through this. So the discussion took place regarding the desire, of course, of many parents that are in our district to open the Fort Lee schools to more in-person instruction. It was mentioned that we eliminate virtual Wednesdays, as far as school days past 1 o'clock, eliminating or combining cohorts. We had Jill Scarpa there. We asked her opinion, and basically her opinion is more of keeping everything safe, social distancing, 6 feet, wearing masks, making sure that we're not in the orange or the red when we start doing things of this nature, just to make sure that the risk doesn't go up. We've already taken several actions on this. And that was that. Kristen had mentioned that they had eliminated snacks in Leonia. One big issue that we are still talking about is lunch, not having, how to, what do we do? How do we integrate it? There's going to be more meetings about this, as things change, which is a constant changing effort. So that's number 2. Number 3 is then I had an equity committee meeting on the 17th. I know Esther wanted to ask Diane several questions at the last meeting. It had to do with the goals and the strategy of the committee. There were 4 separate goals that they wanted to do. One was engaging students, one's engaging staff, continuing PD, getting community outlet or outreach as far as their opinions is concerned, and And let's see what else. And then Ken and Diane had reached out to Montclair University to do a audit of our documentation as far as analyzing and running our equity audit, and then sharing their findings with us. Another thing I think is that there's something about a PD day for Montclair on October 11th of 21. And so there's going to be more with that as well. And Stephen Dominguez heads up the equity committee, and he's doing a fantastic job of it. So that's that. Then there's the last, but the biggest one is I'm now part of New Jersey School Board Association's Special Education Committee, and we have met every week since February 10th. It's a once a week committee. There's a lot going on there right now. There's a resolution that's going to be introduced at I believe the May Delegate Assembly regarding parent advocacy and how we should go about that. I spoke with the permission of Mr. Rhoda. I spoke with Diana Davis to get her opinion, because that was one of the assignments that the committee gave to each one of us, to talk with our child study or special ed director and find out what they think of parent advocacy, how they feel about it, what needs to be done, what shouldn't be done, things of that nature. She was extremely informative, and had a lot to tell me about it. And let's see what else. Also, let's see. And then there was, then Senator Sweeney introduced a bill for students who are aging out, to add one additional year to their IEPs, because of the COVID effect that it has had on them. So that was a big thing as well. We already have language in all our child study team departments that already talk about aging out and how to go about giving them extra additional time if they need it. And that's it for now.
In a Reader's Digest version.
That's like,
I'm not criticizing what you
I was getting writer's cramp with all of these committees, I gotta tell you.
just give everyone 3 sentences on your attendance at the Garden State Coalition of Schools meeting.
Oh,
Senator,
let me tell you something. I gotta tell you,
Pithy.
that was phenomenal. I gotta tell you, the Garden State Coalition is where all the superintendents get together. And you want to know what an eye-opening meeting is, that's it. You know, I give props to our superintendent. You know, as board members, we don't realize the jobs and what's on their shoulders. We just don't. And you would be surprised. The same questions that we are posing to him and saying, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? Well, how can we do this? How can we do that? Is the same questions that these same superintendents keep asking each other. And did we get any notification in this? And her name was Senator
Teresa Ruiz.
Ruiz. Yes, she's phenomenal. And just to show you that even senators are just average people like we are, she had her 4-year-old that kept interrupting her during the meeting to show you that, you know, it's not just about, you know, legislative passing of bills and things of that, but she's a mom as well, and she's dealing with the same things that all parents are dealing with. And it really was, as I was listening to all the questions and, you know, should we open up? Can we have lunch? Is anybody having lunch? How is everybody doing with social distancing? Did you open your high schools yet? How much did you open your? It was just astonishing that all these superintendents have the same questions that all of us do. So, you know what, Ken? Kudos to you, because I never realized how much was on your shoulder. I mean, we talk about it all the time as board members. I just never realized it. And so I want to say I'm sorry if I've been pushing, but you're doing a great job, Ken.
Okay, thank you. And there'll be another meeting of the Garden State Coalition in April.
One coming up. I just got an email on that.
And I'll make sure everyone knows at the March 22 meeting. Again, I think it's eye-opening. All should attend at least one.
You should go and listen. You really need to just go and listen. You don't participate, you just listen. And I'm telling you, it's amazing.
Anyone else have any committee reports? Okay. Thank you, Holly. Do board members have any questions or comments on tonight's agenda or any other topic?
I have to say something because I won't. Paula, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
I failed to mention Nina Anderson, and I won't sleep tonight unless I mention Nina Anderson and Carrie Wiederholt. So sorry. Thank you.
Well,
you're amazing.
I'll mention every other female teacher.
And every teacher, I know. I shouldn't have started.
I want to mention my mom.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments on tonight's agenda? Okay, I just have a couple. So first, I want to draw everyone's attention. We have a new policy that we're enacting, 2POL. We are establishing, hopefully tonight, and a personnel and interview committee. You saw it's narrow in scope, but that is an amendment to our committee policy. Importantly, resolution 11F for the board and the public. This is a resolution to approve a long-term 10-year lease for our central office that will be moving from its current location to the new parking garage facility that's more centrally located in town. It may come to be, because of the nature of the lease, that if, I believe we'll approve it tonight, that it may appear on the next agenda as well, because leases of this sort have certain approval requirements. So if you see it again, it's because we're just satisfying some unique requirements relating to longer term leases. I just want to note that at the last meeting, the board approved a resolution unanimously asking the legislature and governor of New Jersey to advance and consider teachers and staff as essential workers, to put them higher in line for the COVID vaccine. And the following week, that was accomplished in part because of the advocacy and pressure of all the local school boards to have the teachers and staff have that made available to them. It initially was going to be available on March 15th, and because it got so much attention, it became immediate, and now teachers and staff are available. Ken is looking to see whether we could do something in district on site. Some districts are, it's, you know, there's a lot of planning that goes with that, but that is on his radar screen and in the pipeline to make it more convenient for our staff and teachers to obtain it. There are two resolutions. The first is 2 CUR, and Ken and Akeisha, I know you've been working feverishly to get information to board members on the calendar, but there are a number of board members that still don't have all the information and are doing some due diligence themselves. And so I plan to make a motion to postpone that only until the next meeting. And if all the issues aren't resolved, we're going to go ahead and we'll vote on it. But they have been working, and there have been a number of emails going back and forth. So I think in fairness, to them a postponement of 2 weeks. I spoke or I emailed you, Ken, and there wouldn't be any prejudice for us to delay it 2 weeks, but it's something that we just need to get done because a lot of other plans revolve around it. So I would hope everyone would support it and indulge postponing its 2 CUR just until March 22. And then also on resolution 6F, it's the extension of Dennis's firm while we look at the latest round of RFPs that came in. The current date on that is in April, and we have a meeting on March 22. So I think we should really endeavor to make a decision by the next meeting. And so I'm at the appropriate time going to make a motion to just amend 6F to advance the date to March 22. And if on March 22, we need to extend it another 2 weeks because we just haven't made a final decision, we'll be able to do that. But we have the materials, and I had asked Hakisha if you would circulate them to the board as a whole so that everyone can dig in and start to look at that. And I think it would expedite things. Should I make the motions now or should I wait until we get to the resolutions? I'm happy to do that now. Well,
I think you have to make them now.
Has their hand raised.
Oh, I just had one question.
Sure.
The committee reading is the first reading, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because I have a few questions on that, so I'll talk to you about those later then.
Okay, that's fine. So then I would like to make a motion to postpone 2 CUR, which is the calendar, to the March 22, 2021 meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, I Hvac motion, second Rubino, but thank you, Julene.
Sorry. I'm still new at this.
It's okay, better to have more seconds than none. Everyone in favor of the motion, please say aye.
So Paula, this,
Do a roll call?
yes,
Okay, I didn't think it was a roll call vote, but that's fine.
Ms. Ramba,
Yes.
Ms. Richter,
Yes.
Ms. Byers King,
Yes.
Ms. Han Silver,
Yes.
Ms. Stasu,
Yes.
Ms. Morel,
Yes.
Ms. Cho,
Yes.
Mr. Rubino,
Yes.
Ms. Hvac.
Yes.
The motion to postpone passes.
And again, if you have questions on it, or you have data, Ken has been worked all weekend on collecting and everything. So let's be sure that we all plan to vote on that at the next meeting. That should give us sufficient time to nail down whatever our comments, issues, changes are. Does anyone want to have discussion on, well, let me make the motion to advance the date in resolution 6F to March 22.
Second.
Okay,
Isn't it?
is it what?
I thought it was April on there.
It is, and I'm advancing, making a motion to change the April date to March 22.
You're making it sooner. Okay, I thought it said April. Okay.
It did, that's the change. And if March 22 comes and we need more time and we're still sorting things out, then we'll make a motion to extend it to April. But you know, we've been working on this since January. And so I think, you know, we could probably come to some resolution by March 22.
I just, yeah.
Does anyone want to have discussion on the motion before we vote?
Well,
Yes, I'm sorry. If we can change it then, why don't we just leave it till then? I mean, we're in such a rush. We didn't even start reading things yet, and it's March 8th already. So you're rushing things from March 22nd. That's in 2 weeks. We're going to have time to read all this and figure out what we're going to do. Why not give us the leeway till April 12th? You're going to hire somebody in 2 weeks and be ready to roll? I don't understand why we have to change that.
Okay, it's really been discussed since January, and I think it's incumbent upon us. It's an important issue. And you know, we keep every meeting, it's like another month, and I don't see why at this point,
But
Hakisha,
Paula, now it's because of the RFPs. We've been discussing it for a long time. When we finally just started with RFPs, it's just only the second go round. We only got a few the last time. And it has nothing to do with us doing it from last year when we didn't make a decision. We decided to do RFPs and we did.
but,
And now we're gonna,
okay.
I just don't see the big deal.
Keisha will be sending, I had asked, and I know you were working on the budget, Keisha, so no issue. I had sent you an email to circulate the material to everyone. And guys, it honestly, I mean, there were like 3 or 4, maybe 5 firms, and the material is, you know, what have you done in the public school space? What are your, I mean, it's really straightforward. In an hour maximum, you can read everything and get a feel for all the firms. And it may be that, you know, we'll want to interview a couple. I tend to like deadlines because it forces us to do the work and not wait until the last minute. Again, if we're not ready on March 22, I'll be the one to make a motion. We want to make a thoughtful decision, but I think we really just have to move ahead and make it a priority. And one way you do that is to set a deadline by which you're going to make a decision. And so I appreciate, you know, your position on it, Candy, but I think we ought to move it to March 22.
Thank you.
So I just kind of want to get an idea of what timeline you're envisioning, because at first I thought the negotiations committee was kind of doing this, and we had discussed the timeline and the RFPs, and I thought we were going to do like the first round of interviews and then bring it to the board. But I guess now we're kind of kiboshing that, and we're going to, like, the whole board is going to review it, and then are we going to interview all of them, or we're going to, like, I'm kind of wondering what's the plan and how are we going to do it, just to get an idea of whether is 2 weeks doable.
Right, so advancing the date to March 22 doesn't foreclose the negotiation committee interviewing. I just think at this point, this is a lawyer that's going to represent every single member of the board. And I would like them, all of you, to have the information. And if the negotiation committee wants to call a meeting to review and to interview, I think that that's terrific. And we had talked about doing that very soon after the proposals came in, and it hasn't. And so I would expect that we would look at the material that came in, decide whether we're going to interview. Lawyers that want to work for the district are going to make themselves available on short notice. It can be done this week, early next week, certainly before March 22. I'm in this business. If a potential client wants to meet me, I clear the calendar so that I can meet that potential client. So there's plenty of time here to have the meetings. And I'm in favor if the committee would like to meet with people and have them give a little presentation, that's perfectly fine.
I'm on the negotiations meeting too. I think it's a bit aggressive, but I get it if you want to put the date down, but I think it does put a little pressure on us. I don't think it'll be, I mean, I don't want to say I don't think it'll be done by then, but the way we left off our last meeting was that, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this, is that we were going to review the proposals and, interview the ones we thought were, good, and then present that to the board. So I know that some board members had expressed wanting to meet them too. I don't know if that's allowed. I don't know, you had said that you're not supposed to meet people, or is that only hires? I just want to clarify what we're doing so that the negotiations team can have a plan moving forward. If we're looking at it, if the whole board is looking at it, just could you please clarify for us?
Sure. The proposals came in on March 3rd, now March 8th. Over the weekend, I asked Keisha to forward them to every board member so that at the time the committee comes and says, well, we like XYZ firm, at least everyone has seen all the material that came in, just so the process could move quicker, okay? We can tell Hakisha, please set up, we could do it. It's not something that takes a lot of time. Please set up a meeting, in the next 5 days with each of the 3 or 4 or 5 firms see what their availability is. I mean, this can all be done offline, setting up meetings. Why doesn't everyone on the negotiations committee tonight after this meeting, send me your availability for the next 5 days. And then we will look to see if there are convenient pockets of time that we could set up with the law firms that we solicited.
That's what we had done with the first batch, but then we never went through with it, so.
Because at one of the recent meetings, all of those proposals were rejected.
Right,
So
right,
you reject a proposal, you wouldn't interview the people that you just rejected.
right. No, I know that. I'm just saying we had gotten together before, so we can do it again. It's just tight.
Material came in and presumably was opened on March 3rd, correct, Takesha?
Yes, I'm in receipt of 3 proposals. Forgive me, I've got budget on the brain, but I think I sent an email to the negotiations committee with the proposals, with Dennis's firm proposal from the first round, as well as the evaluation sheet I think I sent. And so I'm just waiting. I'll do whatever you're asking, but I didn't know if the negotiations committee and Esther was doing it or what, but I can absolutely, right now it's shared with the negotiations committee. If you want me to reshare it with the whole board, I can do that as well.
Yeah, I think the full board ultimately is going to vote on something, and this is not such dense material or voluminous that my preference is for them all to just have the benefit of the material that came in, and the negotiations committee will look at it much closer, and we could give a recommendation as a committee, but at least then all board members will be more informed about what the options were at the time to vote.
Am I setting up meetings with folks, or is the negotiations committee going to be?
Fine. I don't.
We'll give you our.
We could talk about that offline. People can, we'll coordinate schedules, and if the committee wants to meet with certain of the lawyers, that's perfectly fine. Elisa.
No, I just wanted to mention can we introduce also Dennis's colleague, just in case we have 133 participants. So in case people are wondering.
So, Rakai, right?
Yes.
Because the name changed, on your little Brady Bunch square.
Yes.
Dennis McKeever.
I am not Dennis.
Rakaya, I remember the first name. Remind me of your last name.
My last name is Bonjour.
Please spell that.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Yep.
You're right. So for the public's benefit, we have someone who's identified as Dennis McKeever, but I assure you, the woman with the glasses on her head is not Dennis McKeever. This is Rakaya Bonjour, and she is a new lawyer with the Sciarillo firm, our current general counsel. And she's recently admitted to the bar and to the state courts of New Jersey, and she's going to be practicing in this area. So she picked our district to come and observe and to learn some of the nuts and bolts of representing a school district. And so that's who you see. We haven't enlarged our school board to 10 members. We just benefit tonight of 2 able lawyers from our general counsel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Thank you for reminding me to introduce Rakaya. And we wish her lots of many years of representing New Jersey School Board.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion to amend Resolution 6F? So, Hakisha, can we take a roll call?
Ms. Richter,
Yes.
Mr. Rubino,
Yes.
Ms. Stasu,
Yes.
Ms. Cho,
Yes.
Ms. Byers King,
Yes.
Ms. Morel,
Yes.
Ms. Ramba.
Andy, you're muted right now.
Thank you. What are we voting on now?
It's the resolution to amend 6F to make the date March 22.
No, it's my vote.
Okay.
Ms. Han Silver,
No.
Ms. Colbat,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Can I have a motion to open the floor to the public?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Joe.
Second.
I think motion Cho, second Rubino. I don't know, you muted, Elisa, but I think I heard you.
Yeah, I did. I think with Kristen though.
All right.
You're muted, Paula.
Yeah, are you going to take a roll call on that, opening the floor to the public, or can we just say, all in favor, say aye?
Voice vote.
Aye. Oh,
Aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, so I'm going to read the little disclosure that we usually read, how we're going to conduct the public comment on the Zoom. So we're going to use the raised hand feature to identify the order in which the public comments will be shared. If you have a public comment to share, please select participants from the bottom center of your Zoom screen. From there, select the raise hand button from the bottom right corner of your Zoom screen. Our secretary, Ms. Taylor, will recognize each community member in the order of the raised hands by lowering the hand and unmuting the microphone if muted. Please then state your name and home address for the record and begin your comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Does anyone from the public have any questions or comments on tonight's agenda or any other topic? If you do, please select the raised hand feature. And before we get started, I need to give Dave Garib a public apology. Last meeting, I urged Dave, his 3 minutes was up and I had taken up a number of his 3 minutes improperly. And so I promise if Dave comments or anyone else, I will try not to interfere with the 3 minutes. And so it was something that came to my attention. And so to Dave, I apologize for interfering with his comments during the last meeting. So do we have any raised hands?
Yes, I've promoted Peter Suh. Peter Suh, you have been promoted to panelist. Feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record.
What's up, Peter?
Peter Suh, Fort Lee, New Jersey, 2237 Warren Avenue. I'm actually calling in today because thank you for the budget presentation. I know it's not easy to get that 2% number. I've been there, done that. Congratulations, great job. I was actually going to comment on the pilot. The pilot, as a governing body, we're very concerned with doing these. And the only pilots that we do have in Fort Lee is the Modern 2 and Hudson Lights Phase 2. Phase 1 of Modern and Phase 1 of the Hudson Lights do not have a pilot program on them currently, and we don't plan to have one. Hudson Lights Phase 2 would only have the pilot on the residential portion. So for those interested, and we know that the pilots really screw the Board of Ed, and the governing body has made it a objective to make sure that the schools get their fair share. And that's what the idea was with that fair share to service agreement and making sure you guys got it. And the added bonus of it came as it comes outside of the 2%. And that was one of the things that we did like about how this was set up, because it would help you go past the 2% and get funds for capital projects and whatnot. And I think we just discussed renewing it on our last meeting. So we'll be getting that. The concern is the pilot is based on revenue collections. And if the building is going through rent issues, collection issues, that could lower the payment. I don't know what the payments are looking like in the current year and what it's going to look like going forward because of reassessments and all that other stuff. But we're hoping that you're going to be getting about the same as what we've been projecting thus far. And in regards to the vaccinations, I've been actually speaking to Al Restano about setting up a date for our teachers. for a vaccination date once we know what kind of availabilities we have. We have the community center currently set up to do vaccinations. And I was hoping, like other towns, I think I just heard Sea Caucus had done it for all of their teachers, where they set up a couple days and all the teachers who wanted the vaccinations came in and did their vaccinations through their health department. And I'm working with our administrator and hopefully Jill to set up something like that for our teachers as well. So Ken, stay tuned. I think someone will probably be reaching out to you in the next day or so if we can pull this off, because that would be an excellent feature where we can always help each other out. And anything you guys need from us, I chair the finance committee, and obviously I'm your liaison for the Board of Education. So anything you need, please feel free to reach out, and I'm always here for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Let me also add that Kristen Richter has been working at the municipal level too with the Office of Emergency Management and Brian Drumgoole to see how we might facilitate staff and teachers. And Mike Rubino has been working with the county commissioners to see whether they have any influence in order to get supply and how we can, you know, make it quick and easy and facilitate it all for our staff. So anything you could do, Peter, you know, we always appreciate.
Absolutely. You know, I'm there for you guys every time.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter.
Anthony Navas, I'm promoting you to panelist. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes, Anthony.
Can you hear me now?
Can hear you loud and clear, Anthony.
Awesome. Hope everybody's doing good. Happy Women's Day. There were a couple things that I want to, I guess, bring up, but as the meeting went on, there's other things I guess were more important. Quick question, that meeting that Holly gave her response to with Jill Scarpa, was anything mentioned about her opinions on opening school?
So why don't you, instead of kind of, we're trying to avoid kind of a, and I'm not avoiding answering the question, but why don't you give us all of your questions, and then to the extent.
Well, no. Well, I had other things that I wanted to discuss, but I feel like we were told that we're going to have a meeting. The last, I don't know, 3 Board of Ed calls. Oh, wait till we talk to Jill Scarpa. Wait till we talk to Jill Scarpa. And then that incredibly brief rundown seemed like they glazed over all the important issues of opening school. Is she comfortable with opening school? And I feel like absolutely none of that was addressed. So because that was glazed over, you know, we don't have to have a back and forth, and that could be the only question that I have. But I think people were anxiously waiting for a little bit more than what we were just given.
Mr. Navas, just to follow up, I'll tell you that I speak to Ms. Scarpa almost on a daily basis, discussing some of the issues we're talking about here. She is of the mindset that we need to proceed carefully and follow the protocol, specifically the 6-foot social distancing protocol. She's in support of us moving forward if we can maintain that, as long as the case numbers continue to come down in the community, which luckily they have recently. Actually, I just received numbers before this meeting, so we're moving in the right direction. So she has been very, very supportive of everything the schools have done, and been very much informative in keeping us informed of what's happening, what's going on. As a matter of fact, our most recent conversation was regarding vaccination of staff, just as we just were talking about. But we are moving, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, we are moving in that direction. I follow Mrs. Scarpa's recommendations as far as quarantining and reopening carefully and making sure we maintain those numbers. She has always stressed with me the number of the 6-foot social distancing, students wearing masks, and the importance of quarantining when people are ill as the very important factors in reopening the school safely.
So she is present day okay with doing 5 days?
I haven't put that question to her because you know what she has said to me is she is not an educator. She's a health officer. but I've discussed the options with her and she supports what our decisions will be.
Okay, I mean, I know my time's running low, but I mean, you would imagine that, are you okay with opening 5 days would be a question that is asked, especially when we ask educators and we say we have to ask health professionals, then we say they're not an educator. It's just a circle, and welcome to 12 months of not having 5 days of school. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Next up, we have Peter. I see Peter's hand again. I'll promote.
It might be a different Peter.
There's two Peter Sues in Fort Lee.
Thank you, Peter Sue. I've promoted you to panelist. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and your address for the record. You have the floor and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, this is Peter. So I am not the city council person. My address is 238 Harmon Avenue. And I'm going to ask a question in line with what Anthony was asking about going 5 days. I've effectively stopped tracking news that's taking place in New York City, but I used to work in New York City. Now, it seems as though New York public schools have gone 5 days, and they've been going 5 days for a while now. And like the news today is they're going to go 5 days for the high schools. Now, I mean, New York City is supposed to be more congested. You know, they're supposed to have a biggest COVID problem like New Jersey. And if they're moving 5 days ahead, I mean, shouldn't we have a plan at least like for Fort Lee? I mean, we can't even get an answer about like, are we talking about going 5 days? What's our plan? Do we have some sort of timeline? I mean, we've been asking the same questions over and over again. And I kind of find it mind-boggling that Fort Lee must be less congested than New York City, right? I mean, I can't believe that their classes are, you know, less crowded than ours. You know, their facilities are better than ours. I mean, I moved to New Jersey because the student population body is smaller and, you know, so forth. So I'm kind of at a loss here, like why we can't even get some sort of like, you know, guidelines, like, you know, we can possibly think about going 5 days. I mean, the only thing that I'm hearing is that, you know, we'll do it when we're ready and so forth. And I keep on hearing the 6 foot guidelines. I mean, New York City has 6 foot guidelines as well, but they've gone 5 days for a while now. So what's our plan? I mean, do we have any plan? I mean, 3 meetings, I've been asking this question and other people have been asking these questions. I mean, can we get something in writing? Can we at least get some like bullet points that says like, these things must be met, you know, before we can consider? I mean, because I have to take some, you know, plans here. I mean, I'm thinking about, you know, taking my kid out of the public school system and sticking him in private school. My wife is like hassling me, you know, it's like, you know, or should we move out of New Jersey? I mean, should we move to another town? It's gotten to that point. So just putting that out there, that we need something in writing and we need to, you know, agree on something, at least a plan. This is, I mean, I don't know. It's just stuck in mud and spinning.
Well, Mr. Sa, I respectfully disagree with you that I don't think we've been stuck in mud. We've made progress in increasing in-student contact time at all the levels by bringing back a number of students 5 days or 4 days a week, and now 5 days a week with the cohort system. We wanted to move carefully to make sure that we don't end up causing a resurgence, but I think we're doing a very good job of that. We do have a plan. We have a plan we've been discussing for months, as I mentioned at every meeting. The administrators have been working very carefully on it to make sure we can do it safely, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward and move this. As I just mentioned a few minutes ago, I did receive updated numbers for Fort Lee, which are very promising. Our numbers have come down. It helps us to move more safely and really, you know, implement our plan. I'm hopeful that, you know, we may be able to move forward prior to the spring break.
But you congested. I mean, if the Bronx can do it, if
Well,
some
Mr.
area, I don't want to use some pejorative words here or anything, but if some of these lesser school districts in Brooklyn and Bronx can do it, I mean, Fort Lee can't do this. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, Peter, you just heard though, I mean, something, an aspirational timeline here of something that would be positive before spring break. Now that's something definitive. And you know, this has to be thought very carefully, and but you've got something of a timeline, and we are putting a very sharp point on this, and plans are really, really gelling that, you know, I think the community very soon is going to hear something positive, but all pieces, we don't want to create false hopes. We want to make sure that all the pieces are in place. And I just heard before spring break, which I think is extremely positive. And so I think you have what you were looking for, some type of plan and some type of target date.
All right, spring it is. We'll stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Sabrina, I'm promoting you to panelists. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. Sabrina?
Hi, Sabrina Meisowitz. I'm at 1380 Abbott Boulevard. I think I just kind of wanted to follow on some of the comments that Peter just made. From the perspective of the parents, it really feels like there isn't a lot concrete that's being told to us. So there are mentions of, well, we need to have the 6 feet distance apart. We need to be careful about implementing this plan. And we all understand that. I think we've all been in this pandemic for a year. We know what the requirements are, but there's no information about, is there a problem? Are we not able to do this in school one because we don't have enough space for the desks for the amount of students that we need? That's the kind of information that the parents are looking for. I mean, I think that when we say it feels like there's no plan, it's because there's very little information that's provided to us about what are the criteria for when we would be able to do this. I know you just said before spring break. That feels a little amorphous, because I'm afraid if it's before spring break, that's great, but I'm afraid that timeline keeps kind of slipping. You know, it's frustrating to the parents because there's no, you say the numbers are getting better, but you won't tell us, well, if they go below this level, then we'll be okay. You know, I think those are the kind of things that we're looking to hear, because, you know, a lot of us are in situations where we've got 2 working parents, our offices are opening back up, and we see parents from other school districts that have their kids in school 5 days a week. That's why there's frustration. It's not that we don't appreciate everything that you're doing, it's just that we feel like there isn't a lot of clear communication.
Ms. Meisowitz, you know, there are a lot of moving parts involved here. And I have, as Ms. Colbat said earlier, trying to get them all lined up in the right way is a challenge, and we're working on that every day. This is not something we are putting off. We're moving forward. We've been moving forward for the past month. We've increased student in-person time in all of our buildings throughout the district in the last month. So we're going to continue moving in that direction.
And Sabrina, I would add that, you know, you've seen the maps of the state, and like the southern part of the state is yellow, which is like, we would love to be in the yellow. You know, it would make these decisions much easier, but where we are in northern Bergen County, it's still orange, which creates, you know, you gotta, it's one of the factors that I think is holding us back. I mean, I would defer to Ken on it, but, you know, Bergen County as a whole still has some high numbers.
If there are factors that are holding us back, I think it would be really helpful to the parents to know what those factors are, because we feel like we don't know.
Well, the Cali index that comes out is an important factor, and we're still in the high risk range in the orange color.
And is there a range that we need to get to that then we'll say, you know, these are the kind of things that would be helpful?
Preferably if we hit the yellow range in the media, I believe it's medium risk, then we really would be a big step in the right direction. But as Ms. Colbath mentioned, you know, 2 weeks ago, a good part of the state turned yellow. Last week, it turned back to orange. So, you know, these things are being monitored weekly and watched every day, looking for what happens. I report the number of cases every day that what's happening. Now, luckily, those numbers of reports have gone down for the board, as they can attest to, but I send the board a daily report. That's what we're still dealing with.
Yeah, and there are lots of other school districts that are dealing with the same situation. I mean, I do
agree.
understand that, but you know, it really makes us worry as parents that we're not going to see the schools open this year.
Well, I truly hope that's not the case. And I don't believe that it will be.
So I know, Elisa, you have been trying to make a comment.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to mention Sabrina and also any other parent that might be wanting to get a pulse of what's going on in Fort Lee. The county executive, Jim Tedesco, does have a Facebook page where he does post the actual numbers for all the towns and municipalities in Bergen County. So every Tuesday and Friday, he posts that, and you can actually see kind of how it's changing in our community specifically as well. So that way you can kind of gauge it for your own interest.
Yeah, but it would be great if we could have that linked to what you guys use as your metrics for making these decisions.
Well, don't include all of us in these decisions because I'm not included in this. I agree with you. I know the frustration, and just hopefully, like Mr. Rhoda and Paula said, you will be getting some answers hopefully soon. It's very frustrating. I feel your pain. I really do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Paula.
Candy.
I know this is, we usually don't talk at this time, but I just had to add two things because everybody's referring to other districts. I'm in another district that I am in 4 half days. I've been told as a teacher, and we're just as frustrated as the parents, that in 2 weeks on Wednesday, I have to report back in. No other details. We have to come in on Wednesdays. We don't know if the kids are coming. We don't know if we have to stay all day. We don't have to stay half a day because so many things come into account. How many kids want to come into the next marking period, how many teachers are going to be available. I'm just throwing that out because it is frustrating and there are times that we don't get information. I also want to add, my daughter is in Englewood. They have not even been in school at all yet. Teachers are going in March 15th for the first time and children are going hybrid April 15th. So there's different things in different areas that are going on. And I know it's frustrating, but everybody's cases are different and the situations are different in all the districts. And it's really hard to give information. Like Paula said, you want to say something and then not be able to do it. Sorry, Ken.
Go ahead, Esther.
Just the one thing which I know we had discussed, I think maybe it was like the February one. I don't remember the date. It was the first February meeting. We talked about the actual numbers of the cohorts, and one of the things that Ken had mentioned was that, you know, when you combine the cohorts, the numbers in the classroom, that was one of the things that they were really looking at. And, you know, we talked about that a lot. And that was, you know, that's one of the things I did want to mention also, is that's one of the factors that they are looking at, is the numbers of kids that would be in each classroom. And some of these classrooms, we have the numbers, they would exceed the 12. You know, he was saying optimally you don't want to have more than 12 people in a classroom. We know that some of these classrooms will have more than 12 people, so then they might have to switch classrooms. So that's those are the things that they're trying to work out. They might have to switch classrooms, and someone was like, oh, then just move the kids into another classroom. I'm sorry, but you know what, some of these parents, when they you know, they're like clamoring for that 5 days, but if your kid's the one that's, you know, at the end of March, all of a sudden they're going to get a new teacher, is not going to be happy. So there's that. Those are kind of the little things that they are all trying to work out. You know, I know I'm not trying to disregard the concerns, but I'm just saying, you know, they're asking what are the issues that they're working on? What are the concerns? These are some of the issues and concerns is the actual numbers in each classroom. So that each building has to look at, okay, this is what the classroom would look like. Do we have to move them somewhere else? You know, all those logistics, those are the things that they're looking at and they're trying to work out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that.
You got muted.
Yeah, I think the cohort numbers have been analyzed, you know, like under a microscope at this point, and Ken is intimately familiar and has is well down the road on solutions for those few classes where the number exceeds the 12. And like he said, he's moving ahead, and all the work is being done. And I think people would need to be patient for another week or two and maybe 3, and hopefully there'll be a definitive an announcement made that everyone will be satisfied with. So could we go to the next? Do we have any more raised hands or?
Certainly. 5 Victoria Place. I'm promoting you to panelists. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Margarita Vigodner, 5 Victoria Place. Good evening, everyone. So 2 parts of my questions. First of all, I fully support all the concerns of the parents, but my problem is not only coming back to specific number of days, but about the quality of the education. So my son has been like alone in many classes for many, many weeks. And last week, a little more kids came, as cohorts were combined. So it was not 0, 1. Now it was like 2, 3, maximum 4. I don't know what 12 kids you're talking about. In middle school, it's like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. So he was a little happy to see his friends. They could, talk a little bit. So he was a little up last week. Today he's again alone in all the classes, and in one class he had another kid. So it's mostly alone. He told me that his friends told him that's no point. They do everything through the computer. Almost no interactions with the teachers, mostly through the computer. Half of the, not half, but many teachers are not back to school. So everybody's saying, what's the point? So the concern is not only the number of days, but the quality of the education, more engagement of the students. And so my question is, what are the conditions for the teachers not to come back? If I don't question some of them, but I just want to understand from Mr. Rota, what is the conditions when the teacher can stay home for like no limits, right? For the end of the pandemic, I don't know, like I'm just trying to understand. And by the beginning of those meetings, it was always addressed at Ken and others who said, well, we tell teachers to interact more, not only to look at the screen, but I kind of felt that now like Paul, I think said, it is what it is. At least you have an option to send, kids to school and they're not home. So I don't like this approach. I think we not only need to get back 5 days a week, but also the quality of the education. And also everyone, of course, it's personal choice, but I also want to tell the parents, if you're keeping your kids at school, you're not following the science. Okay, there have been almost no transmission all over the world in schools. And if you think that you're happy that you have to drive your kids and they're in pajamas, Googling the answers of your quizzes, don't think that you're doing any good to them and you're not following the science, okay? All doctors all over America screaming that schools need to be in-person normal education as it used to be. And really quick questions about the budget. A lot of efforts and accents about the languages, performing arts. I wonder if there is any plans on improvement the math education, because the rating went down to the Fort Lee High School. From 70 to 92, Leone is 50, for example, Farallon is 46, we are 92. And the rating looked like it's driven a lot by inproficiency of students in maths, 35% only proficient in math in high school. So, it's wonderful. We have new language classes. We focusing on performing arts, which I think actually is excellent. At high school, we have the chorus, excellent band, musicals, amazing musicals. My question is, if there is any plan to improve the math performance in high school. Thank you.
Thank you, Margarita.
Okay, well, the first question you mentioned about teachers, and I'll tell you that some of our teachers are out with accommodations based upon personal needs. Those are handled on a case-by-case basis. And, I really am not at liberty to talk about individual teachers, but some teachers have accommodations that range from being out for the full day to being out for part of the day or part of the week for various reasons, sometimes for childcare issues. We also have a number of teachers who are on quarantine because of potential exposure or for being sick themselves. They're quarantined. Hopefully, if we can roll out the vaccine, that number will drastically drop. And we also have a number of teachers who are already on leaves for a variety of reasons. So there's multiple reasons why teachers are out during this time. And unfortunately, that's something we have to deal with. The second part of the question about the the math education. We're always looking to improve all of our areas. Math is not up for review this year, meaning it's not going to be revised, but we do look at those areas and always work to try and support the math, all the departments across the board. Mrs. Baker, do you have anything to add along those lines?
No, I think you hit all the bullets. We're always looking to improve and looking at our data to make those decisions.
Yeah, one of the things we've been using more and more is that benchmarking system that I mentioned during the budget presentation. That gives us a lot more data to look at regarding all the students and their progress in certain areas, math and language arts particularly. So we use that data to try and inform our practice as best we can.
Thank you. Next, we have Irina. Irina, I am promoting you to panelist. Please feel free to share your, these names move so much. Let's see, did I promote Irina? She disappeared. Okay, I'm going to promote Kath. Okay, I see Irina again. Irina, you've been promoted to panelist. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. Irina.
Hi, I would just like to echo the feelings of other parents about sending our kids 5 days a week. I know capacity is a problem, and I know you have a lot of factors that you're trying to weigh, but and Bergen County levels are one of them, but I know of other Bergen County school districts that have been opening up. I know our friends go to school in Paramus and they went 4 days a week. So I don't know, I don't think their schools are any more overcrowded or have a lower attendance than ours. So I don't know why they can manage it and we can. And if we can't get the schools open and a budget of almost 85 million, can the parents get some kind of waivers or to start sending our kids to private schools? Can we get vouchers for private schools? I mean, the first parent that addressed, started talking about moving their kids to a different town so they can get 5 days a week. I mean, we're all struggling. We want our kids learning. And I mean, you're saying that the schools aren't going to waive the testing requirement. That these kids are going to be compared to other kids who've been going 5 days a week. I'm pretty sure that they have an advantage over our kids who are in 2-3 days a week, who are studying in their pajamas, who, I'm sorry, at home studying is not the same as being in class. It's just not. It's not the same attention. It's not the same. You don't have the teachers in front of you. Kids are in the rooms by themselves. Parents are working. There's not the same oversight. It's just not the same. And I know, so we really need to get back to school.
Thank you, Irina. I'm promoting Kathleen. Kathleen, feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. Kathleen?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, wait a minute, am I muted?
No, you're very loud.
No,
How's that?
you're loud.
Okay. Okay. Hi, my name is Kathleen Pastina and I'm a paraprofessional at School One. We do interact, everyone in the school does interact with the children, but my question is, when you want the capacity of the children, such as Mr. Rose said, 12, is that counting teachers and paras in the room? Or is it going to be 12 students plus teacher plus para? Or is it going to be 14, yada, yada, yada? I just don't know if that's going to, 12 kids are going to be counted with the teacher and with the para. Is 12 the limit, or is it going to be 14 plus or 16 plus, whatever? But we are there 5 days a week, and like I said, all of us in School One do interact with the children, and we have our kids in 5 days a week.
Kathleen, we appreciate everything that you're doing. I'm going to let Ken. I just wanted to thank you for being in there 5 days a week. The board truly appreciates it.
Yeah, the number 12 is targeted for students, but each building has different issues in each room is different because of the size of the room. So
Mhm.
we use 12 as kind of a cutoff, and we'll look at the individual rooms. That's what we're doing now to see if we can come back and combine cohorts, things like that, to see what size of specific rooms are. Unfortunately, there's not a uniform size and shape throughout the district or even throughout most buildings.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Stephanie, I'm promoting you to panelist. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. State your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, hold on, I'm trying to, there we go. Hey, everybody. So I just had a couple of quick questions. So I'm someone who's had her kids home all year, and I'm bringing them back in. What I'd like, and I agree with a lot of what some of the parents have said in terms of giving us more information and understanding it, what the thresholds are, like what are the points at which it is going to be okay for us to go back in, or what is the threshold for which you would combine cohorts? More because I'm just looking for more information to understand if a hybrid option would still be available. What is that number? Is it 12, the maximum number of students? And apologies if this was covered on other board meetings that I did not attend. I also wanted to ask what happened to the deep cleaning that used to happen on Wednesdays, now that the teachers are in, now that the kids are in on Wednesdays. And I just wanted to state that I know that some might get lynched on the Fort Lee Parents Board after I say this, but there are not everyone is in agreement that the 5 days is a good idea. I know everyone wants to get their kids back to school, and I know that the CDC and there's a lot of guidance that it's important for our kids to get back to school, but I also know of kids who have gotten very sick from this. So for us, it's always just been that their health was number one, and I appreciate all the steps you guys are taking to make sure that the health of all the students is number one before we crowd and then create a bigger problem. So I want to understand what the parameters are, and also I also want to just say I do think that changing teachers midstream would be terrible for kids who have been. I've had my older son went through kindergarten in person, and my younger son is going through kindergarten now, and they both learned to read at the exact same moment in the school year. So I believe, at least at that age level, that they have not, their education has not suffered. So I think you guys are doing as best you can. The teachers are doing the best you can. Health is first and foremost. I want to make sure that everyone's healthy. I think we as parents, the more information you can give us, the better to alleviate the frustration that you're hearing.
And I'll be the first one to agree with you that in-person learning is not the same as online learning. It's much better. But we're doing, as you said, we're doing the best we can to move in that direction. As far as the cleaning is going on. We have a night crew that comes in. They clean the rooms. They clean the hallways. They clean the buildings in general. They do use the electrostatic sprayers to disinfect everything. So that is continued, just using our night crew to do that. And take care of that to make sure that we do maintain a standard of cleanliness in the building. That's very important to us, and we've been able to do that despite some quarantining that some of our custodians have been sick, but we've still been able to manage that and keep that going. So that's ongoing. That probably I can't imagine that's going to go away. We'll be maintaining that probably moving forward even into September, just to for the safety factor.
And Stephanie, remember, even if and when we combine the cohorts, all parents will have a choice to remain remote. So that's a choice, if your family decides that they want to remain remote, that's an option that you'll have. The one thing—
Will it be remote or full? Like if you combine, that's one of my questions. And you guys probably saw the email I sent to everybody, just asking, just saying that I didn't think that survey that went out asked the right questions. If you do combine, does that mean that if I want to only send my kids in 2 days a week, that's not an option? It has to be all virtual or all in person?
That I would defer. I'm not sure how the district, I think they want some consistency, but I defer to our superintendent on whether if we do the 5 days, you could still elect to only pick 2 of those.
Our goal has been obviously to do that with consistency is critical because of the size in the room and the number of students in the room.
And the planning for the teachers.
But yeah, obviously that's an important part there to make sure the numbers are as consistent as possible. It doesn't mean we're not open to listening to comments and requests from parents.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Mike Asso, I'm promoting you to panelist. Please feel free to share your video and your comment.
Oh boy.
Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Asso.
Hi, everyone. I just got off of work. Just trying to catch up real quick. Hi, Keisha, how are you? Just trying to catch up. Are the teachers committed to coming back 5 days a week?
The teachers are in now 5 days a week.
No, with full students in the classroom.
Well, we're not moving to full students in the classroom yet, Mr. Asso. We got a ways to go yet.
Okay, so basically, realistically, this is not going to happen for this school season.
Well, I'm not sure what you're referring to, Mike.
Well, we received a questionnaire
Right.
about going back to school 5 days a week.
Yes.
My concern is, if I'm going to fill out this questionnaire, I would like to know if all the teachers will be on board. If the teachers are not going to be on board with this, why would I then send my children?
Well, I can't guarantee that every teacher will be in there. Some teachers have accommodations to be out. Some teachers are on leave. Some teachers are still quarantined. That number changes every day based on our situation. But teachers are in the building now 5 days a week.
I understand that, but now we're talking about combining both cohorts.
Right. Those are the things. These are the things we're working through. As I mentioned earlier.
Are they receptive? Ken, are they receptive to it?
I will, we had the discussion with FLBOE and we will work through whatever we need to work through. I think the teachers agree that in-person instruction is more effective than online instruction. This is not an area where they, if we decide to do it, the teachers will be doing it. As long as we maintain our safety parameters and do what we can.
Okay, because I just like to see, parents fill out these questionnaires and we filled it out over the summer. We thought we were going to do something in September. That fell apart because the FLBOE pulled a power play. I don't want to do the same thing again.
Well,
if
Mike,
they're not on board, then let's scratch the questionnaire, finish the year in hybrid, and move on.
Right, that's not entirely true. That's not why we changed our plans in September. Like I said, there are a lot of moving pieces and a variety of factors here. September, one of our bigger concerns was a lack being able to get PPE supplies that were needed in the building to maintain the safety. So we were working with the teachers. The teachers have been very cooperative and very much supportive of what we've been doing so far. I really haven't had, as you're implying, a roadblock from the teachers. I think they want to be there. They want to teach their kids as well.
Well, I'm just saying is before we send out a questionnaire to the parents, I think you always need to have them on board before you send it out.
We need the information from the questionnaire so we can make the informed decisions about what we're doing, what direction we're going.
Okay.
And Mickey, in terms of the teachers' receptivity to the 5 days, I mean, let's not lose sight of the fact that the vaccine is now, available if they want it. And I believe a lot of our teachers will avail themselves of that. And that I think could be a game changer if they did have some hesitations.
Well, that remains to be seen, right?
It does. But you're asking whether our teachers want to come back in. And I think the availability of a vaccine bears on that question.
But I always thought if you're going to do something, you want to get
I think you could do it simultaneously.
All right, we'll see how that one plays out.
As to how many kids you could be working with.
The other thing I do want to say, because I've been home a lot lately with my children, and I got to commend, especially my daughter's third grade teachers, Miss Antonio, Miss Dente. They have been fantastic. My children now have getting They struggled at first, but they're starting to get into the swing of things. Okay, I really don't care. I look at their participation. I look at that they're doing their own work. I look at that they're being more attentive and being participating.
Right.
My son's fifth grade teachers, again, they got a handful, but they're doing and navigating the best they can. So I like to tip my hat to them because they are doing a hell of a job. And fifth grade's a little bit different than third, but they're doing a hell of a job. I still believe that there should be some teachers that should be furloughed because it doesn't make any sense. So if we're going to do this remote, you have to look at it because we still are a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers. We cannot continue to pay people for not doing anything. And I see it every day. So we have to look at that collectively because you all know that you have a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers. Okay? I don't believe that we should have 2 gym teachers teaching. And especially off a video. So I got two gym teachers on a Zoom teaching on a video. If that makes sense to you all, I wish you well, but that's not the prudent way of doing what you need to do on behalf of the taxpayers. So I need you to really start to look at that because as you see, it's going to explode. We got to do some tough, you guys got to do some difficult things. I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel.
Noted. You know, you always have my ear.
So I listen, you guys are doing a hell of a job. Big situation we're in. Just hang in there. Just do what's right for the town and what's doing right for the children. That's all I care about.
Appreciate it, Nikki.
All right,
Thank
peace
you.
out.
Nice
Love you guys.
hat. Nice
Thanks,
hat.
Nikki O.
Peace.
Josefa, I'm promoting you to panelist. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes, Josefa.
Oh, sorry. Do you hear me? It's Josefa.
We can hear you.
Oh, hi. How are you? Josefa Sims Montana, 2465 Camner, Fort Lee. So I have just 3 things. One of them is, I think one thing that we're doing that's kind of, I hear over and over as a theme is saying that if you have an online education, it's not an education. So if we look at universities that go online, and when you go into the corporate world and you have global teams that are online, I think it's teaching the kids a very valuable lesson. And I think that all the teachers are doing an amazing job. And when I hear that, like people saying teachers are not doing their job, they should be furloughed, I'm completely against that because everybody's working extremely hard and dealing with their own kids, some of them at home, right? So I think that we need to stop setting the tone, especially when there are other countries that do online schooling, that do work in this kind of environment. So it's just an opportunity to be adaptable, right? That's one. Second, have we learned from any of the daycares around town? Like I know Les Enfants in Palisades Park hasn't had an incident, right, of COVID, because I know people who work there. They also take in other kids that do remote learning that are not younger kids, right? So my question is, have we formed a committee where best practices have shared in order to find out how best to protect and how best to bring people in? Because obviously some people are doing a good job about it. So those are the questions that I have concerning that. And I think that the last thing is that even if we're not going to come back and we're still going to do the cohort and try to come back in September, we should probably think about something for the summer to actually help these kids come back, whether it's like a boot camp or like any kind of thing where you're actually involving sports, you know, as part of that. And I know Mr. Rhoda and I sit on the pandemic team on the intermediate school, but I know that we've mentioned that, but just even to get some community involvement where the kids can actually, you know, have something that's integrated with like sports and some kind of like actual.
You're on mute. Okay.
sorry, it was, I was getting an incoming call, but like coming in, like where you can actually, the kids can like come back to simulate, come back in September because they've missed some of the sports. I know baseball is going on, but other sports that they missed. It's just a thought or something they could do, whether, you know, not full on camp, you know, but we're going to be outdoors. So that could be a different time. So that's basically my questions.
Okay, well, Ms. Santana, I'm going to work backwards here.
Okay.
The majority of the sports you're referring to are run by the rec program through town.
Okay.
We provide facilities, obviously, and work with the town on that, but we don't actually run the rec programs. We have some middle school programs that we run for athletics and sports, and then at the high school. But we're always willing to cooperate with the town, whatever they do. The second part about the looking at best practices, I think that all of us, what I mean by that is the administration, the teachers are working constantly with colleagues to discuss what's working and what's not working. I know that I meet on a weekly basis with a group of superintendents just to have those conversations. I know that Ms. Baker is part of the Bergen County Curriculum Consortium, and they meet on a regular basis. All these discussions are ongoing constantly amongst the professionals to try and see who's got an idea that may work. And that's always, we're always trying to look for the idea we can borrow from somebody else, or who's doing it better than we are. That's very important. I think we've done a very good job. I think our numbers in the schools have been relatively low compared to some other places. So we're doing okay, but we're going to continue to obviously look at what we do and look at our practice and refine it.
Mm-hmm.
And the first part, I don't terribly disagree with you. I mean, I think the online learning, particularly for older students, is good training for the future, because that's obviously where we're headed, it seems. A lot of universities have run online programs for years. I think where we see the more challenging aspect is down at the primary grades. Where
Right,
those
of course,
students
yeah,
are
the
now.
younger kids.
So
right.
we are working, and I agree with you. I think the teachers are working very hard and really expanding themselves. During the year and during the summer, we ran in-service run by our own teachers for our teachers, trying to, once again, like you said, share those best practices of online learning and what they could do.
Yeah, I see some of the work, and it's really, you know, exceptional work, especially in the intermediate school and also school 3. I do see the exceptional work that the teachers are doing. And even, you know, I think the one thing that parents forget is that there's a lot of planning that goes into these programs, right, that these teachers are putting out. It's not just a Google Slides presentation they're slapping together and everybody's sharing the same presentation. There's actually thought in the teaching and making sure that these kids are interested. And then my last question is, because I don't know if, I know certain New York schools are doing this, but I'm not sure if other New Jersey schools are doing that. Besides helping the teachers, if they want to get vaccinated, of course, supporting them. And the other thing would be like, you know, testing people, like testing, teachers, if they wanted to get tested, is that a practice that, you know, I just want to make sure. I think people always say, you know, we want our kids to be safe, but we want our faculty and the people who are helping to raise our kids to also be safe, you know. And I think that's what it's a community. We have to think about everybody, you know, our kids as well, but it's also our kids and our teachers that should be supported.
And I agree with you. We have we actually hosted a testing site at Fort Lee High School earlier in this school year for all the staff in the area. The county has done a great job, I think, of having that mobile testing sites going up. Those dates are always forwarded out to the staff, as well as, you know, they know or are aware that testing can be done at so many different locations now that it's readily available. But I think the county has done a pretty good job with their mobile sites and making that available at Bergen Community and helping us out there. As far as the vaccinations, you heard earlier, you know, we are going to work if Mr. Suck can come through with some connections. We will work in any way we can to facilitate that for the teachers and all the staff, because I agree with you, it's important. We want to make sure everyone's safe.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Madam President, there are no other hands that are raised.
Okay. Could I have?
I think there is actually there.
Okay. Cian, I'm promoting you to panelist. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes, Cian.
Hi, sorry, it took me a minute to unmute. I just wanted to comment. I felt like I had a comment briefly on the comments made about our physical education teachers. I was really disappointed in those comments. I happen to know that our physical education teachers not only promote the physical health of all of our students, and if you know anything about obesity in America, we are in trouble when it comes to obesity, and our physical education teachers are the people who are teaching students about how to remain active and the importance of that every single day, as well as in the health classes that they teach. They work on the social emotional learning of students, as well as, nutrition and the health triangle and all of those different areas. And the idea that anyone would think that we should furlough those types of teachers is just beyond like anything I could imagine. We actually probably should be supporting them even more. So I just felt like we really should understand that those teachers in a time like now during COVID, a health crisis, those are the teachers we need the most. So to even think of getting rid of those types of teachers just like boggles my mind. So I am in support of all of our PE and health teachers. They are amazing. I saw the field days that they ran last year virtually. That was not an easy thing to set up. They spend many, many hours working on each and every lesson every single day. And they are all in for their kids, 100%. They want their kids to learn. They want their kids to be physically fit, mentally healthy, and they are there for their kids during the school day and outside the school day. So I just really need to say that because it's really disappointing when I hear people from the public maybe not understanding what the teachers, especially our PE and health teachers, are doing for the students of our community. And that's all I wanted to say tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cian. Okay, any other raised hands?
Yes,
Hakisha?
Maria, I'm promoting you to panelists. Maria, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, hi.
Oh, I see.
Hi, this is Maria De Decker. Good evening. We're on State Route 5. So my kid has been going to school with a hybrid two times a week. It's just a comment also with the other parents. Is there where a place where we can read about the plan? Because with attending the meetings, I'm just picking up that basically the criteria is we have to turn yellow with the state with the transmission, and the kids, they can't exceed 12 in a class. So it's actually the first time I'm hearing about this number 12 in a class. So it would be appreciated with the parents, by the parents, if we could see where this plan is, so we can read it, so we can see the parameters that you've set, because we are also making decisions whether we could send it 5 days. We'd like to, because we'd like to get the sense of normalcy. Second, just a follow-up to the other parents' questions. Of course, I understand that learning online will still be an option, but with a 5 days proposal, is it an all or nothing proposal? That if your kid doesn't go 5 days to school, then is it fully online then? So is there some leeway if parents don't feel comfortable that they can't send their kids 5 days to school? What is the other option? What are the options that are available? Is it only sending them in person 5 days or sending them fully online? So these kinds of options or the plan, I think would like to read about it. That's helpful to us, and I know it's very difficult for everybody. We appreciate the hard work that you do, and kudos to all the teachers, because it's difficult. Teachers and kids sitting for 4 hours in a screen, it's quite difficult. But my kid has been doing well, teacher has been doing well, so it's a big jump from, I agree with Mr. Rhoda, it was a big jump from getting homework sent just online to actual teaching online. So I appreciate that move. Thank you.
All right. So Maria, I'm going to address a couple of things, and then our superintendent can address your question about, is it a mandatory 5 days? I think someone else had a similar question to that, and I don't want to paraphrase how we responded to it. But if you remember last summer, the district worked really hard on what we called a reopening plan. It was a very kind of thick document, and it laid out for our reopening of the schools. And now we're working on a moving forward plan. And some guidance has come out of the governor's office and the Department of Education and Trenton, but it's still very generic and not definitive. And they're leaving it at this point largely to the local school district. And that's why different school districts are doing different things. We're all very different. We have different student populations. We have different enrollment. We have different number of buildings. And so we're now working on our plan to move forward. But we do have a very developed reopening plan that's online. Everyone keeps talking about the 12 in a classroom, and that's kind of a guideline that we've been using. We have 7 schools in the district. The configuration of the rooms in each of those schools is different. Not every school, not every room in every school is the same, and certainly from school to school it changes. So just for planning purposes, we work with a number 12, but some of our classes can accommodate more, and I'm assuming there may be some, I don't think it's a lot, can accommodate less. And so that's what complicates it. But the 12 is not a hard and fast number. That's a general number when we're looking at kind of survey information that we use as a general guideline. Ken, maybe on the 5 days, I think the answer there was a case-by-case basis. We would like things to be consistent, but we're never adverse to listening to what a parent's situation is and reacting to it.
Right, that's what I had said. I think the case by case, we'd like to have parents commit one way or the other for planning purposes and for safety purposes. We know exactly who should be where in the building. And that would be much cleaner for us, much needed for us to be able to track that. But we're always willing to hear what parents have to say and listen to their concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Have
Maria.
a good evening.
You too.
Edison, I'm promoting you to panelist. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes, Edison.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Edison Ortega, 2450 Lemoyne. First of all, thank you for the board members. I'm sure that this is not an easy task to take on, as we all know, in going through the pandemic. So again, thank you for all the hard work and all the hard decisions you guys have to make, on the leading position of running the Board of Education for our community. So I have a few comments, not so much questions. I've been participating in a couple of the board meetings when I get the moment to join. And I understand a lot of parents. I understand a lot of the members of, education system, teachers, parents, management. But I keep hearing a lot of the same requests and the concerns or the ask. And I will probably say is, I would like to, hopefully in the next board meetings, when you guys come up with a plan, we can never provide a solution that's going to make everybody happy. So I think most of the parents, I will hope that 90% of the parents will understand that, and that when a solution is presented, we have solutions on a macro and micro level. So I understand that there's going to have to be plans maybe for Lee as a whole. Maybe there's going to have to be plans for each independent school. And in some cases, it might be even beneficial to provide each independent classroom. Yeah, like you guys mentioned, there's standards, but there's also guidelines based on the space on the room, maybe the HVAC on the room. So I will ask that as the board continues to work on this plan, maybe provide a more detailed, guidance, as many parents are requesting, based on both of the micro and concerns of each classroom and school. Again, I think not everything's perfect. We all are dealing with an imperfect situation in the business and personal. Some parents are able to do full remote, some parents are not. And being able to provide some flexibility is going to be great. My daughter's in kindergarten with Miss Andrade in school 3. I think she's done a great, teaching experience for my daughter, even though it's been mostly remote at the beginning, then hybrid. And when you guys, when she's able to go, we'll probably definitely go, allow the 5 days into 1. And when it's full, we'll probably ask her to go if she wants to school all the time. But I think the flexibility and providing that micro level presentation will allow a lot of the parents to understand the situation better, and in some cases even provide more detail regarding their frustration. It could be with how what's being presented to the student during the classes. If it's just a standard presentation that every single student has to read. I go into college classes that professor comes in and they just read off the slides and you don't learn anything. So it would be, I think, a lot easier for those parents to then provide examples when that situation happens, when it's, again, tailored to a classroom instead of tailored to the whole Fort Lee education system. But again, thank you for all the hard work you do. I know it's not a perfect situation, and I definitely look forward to the next board meeting and see what you guys present. Thank you.
Thank you, Edison, for your comments. Just for the public's information, Cian Spahn, one of the prior speakers, is the president of the Fort Lee Education Association. That's our teachers union. I had gotten a text from a board member to remind the public of who she was. So I see now, I figured this out. I see one raised hand, Amy Kotang. Do you see that, Hakisha?
She has disappeared.
Okay.
Okay, I see her now.
Back.
Now she's back. Amy, I'm promoting you to panelist. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. Ms. Kotang.
Hi, good evening. I wish everyone a happy International Women's Day, and thank everyone, men and women, for your service to our community. Secondly, I want to give a shout out to our gym teacher at School 3. He and his partner are incredible. The 15 minutes that he gets to spend with my kids at home, it's 15 more than they had before they spend with them. And we all know it by now how important our health and our fitness is, and nothing is more important than that. So I want to give them a shout out. They're doing a fantastic job. I would never want to see them to be forlorn. And I know that our gym teacher finished his work at our school at 2 o'clock, then rushes to the high school to do the second part of his job at the high school to support the high school teams and other sports in our district. Thirdly, I want to thank Councilman Peter Sack. Paul went to school with me, not Peter. I think the vaccination for teachers are critical. We represent, I believe, our district as taxpayer. Don't just protect interests of our children, but the interests of our teachers, and we want to make sure that they are healthy and well. So thank you very much for coming up with a solution to help get our teachers back in the classroom, and hopefully that will help get our kids back into the classroom sooner. Lastly, I want to reiterate a request. I don't have a very firm stance on which way we should go in terms of whether we should go hybrid or in person, full 5 days or full 2 or 3 days. But I asked that Mr. Roeder, if you would consider sharing an action plan, a concrete plan, whatever those markers are, the state Cali report, vaccinations for teachers, hurdles, so that we can see a roadmap that we can check off one by one. And if those are not check off, we know you are doing your best. We know you're trying your best. We're just asking you to help us be part of your team, to support you, to know those are the hurdles that we need to get through as a district. It would give us clarity, it would give us transparency, and it would allow us to throw our weight behind you and behind your decision. Without that, it's difficult for us to do it as a parent because we don't know what those hurdles are. We second guess. We come here frustrated at 10 o'clock and want to be heard and want to be heard. And that's all we want. So I ask that you would consider doing that and share your plan with us. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. We have an additional community member, Judy. Judy, I'm promoting you to panelist. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes, Judy. Judy, you have to unmute your microphone. You do have the floor.
Judy, you're coming in pretty tinny.
I have a question about summer school.
Okay.
Let me see if it works without video.
Yep, we can hear you. You have a question about summer school.
Okay. I do. I have a question about summer school. I thought I heard a comment that that there's some kind of work going on to catch the kids up academically during the summer and also into the next school year. So I would like to hear more about that. And I thought I heard in the beginning, I caught a comment that there was going to be testing for the year, but it's unclear in what form. I understand the word unclear, but I'm just wondering what the range of possibilities are, as you may have more experience in what that could possibly entail. Thank you.
No.
Well, as far as the testing goes, Ms. Samachi, the state will determine the test that we are required to do. We still don't know exactly what the requirements will be. We haven't been informed of that. So right now we are planning as if we will be administering the NJSLA as we have it in the past, but that opens up a whole world of questions about that. We haven't received any specific guidance from the Department of Education about that. Secondly, we are planning to have a summer program for students to reinforce their skills and help them, come catch up to where they may have been. That's in the planning works right now, and we were able to put a lot of that together thanks to some of the grant monies we received, and we're hoping that some form of that program may continue into September, just to really provide extra support, academic support for students who need it.
Yeah, but what would that look like? Or does that mean that the kids have to stay in school? Is it mandatory? Is it during the day? Is it weekends?
Well, no, we can't make anything mandatory. Obviously, it would be optional. Right now we're planning to do something hopefully during the day, in person for students and teachers in this, with small group instruction for a part of the day, a few hours of the day during the weekdays.
Okay, we are, camps are setting people up and things like that. So this would be good information to have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Judy. Okay, I don't see any more raised hands. So may I have a motion to close the floor to the public?
Motion.
Second?
No.
Second.
I had a question.
Motion Morale, second Esther. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are there anyone opposed? Okay, so let's move on to the resolutions.
But before resolutions, I just wanted to clarify two things that were brought up during the public comment. One, I do want to dispel the notion that teachers can kind of like voluntarily opt out of coming into the building. Because I think there was like an impression in one of the questions that kind of might give the public that impression. I mean, Ken can elaborate, but the only teachers who are allowed to work remotely from home have to get, they have to apply for medical accommodation, or they are under quarantine, right? I'm looking at you, Ken.
Yes, we follow the ADA format, the protocol that comes out of the ADA Act, that we have to allow teachers that opportunity to meet with them and discuss their requests.
Right. Okay. And then just the second thing, I do not believe we are permitted to furlough staff due to COVID. I think that was one of the statutes that came out last fall, Ken?
It came out last year. There was a question of whether it would carry over to this year.
Okay.
But I don't believe that it was carried over.
Okay.
But regardless, as you know, the board has not entertained any conversation about furloughing staff so far.
Okay. All right. So that expired. Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Colbeth, I just had a quick question.
Yes.
Can you just clarify when we talk about the 5 days that we're even considering right now? That's 5 half days still, is it not? We're not talking about going to 5 full days right away. I just want to make sure that people understand, the steps that we're going towards.
Yeah, I believe our next step would be to have students in the building 5 days for those reduced session days, half days.
Okay.
A little more than a traditional half day, but still a reduced session day. And then once again, watch our progress, and things go well, we start moving towards a full day.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Before we go to resolutions, we did so much before during the board comment. I forgot to ask about 2POL. So did the policy committee draft this, or I'm assuming this is not like a Strauss-Esme worded policy?
It's not. I was given the various ethical opinions and drafted it from the ethical opinions.
Okay. I guess before we have the second reading, can I suggest that maybe we either have Strauss-Esme or maybe Dennis kind of review, especially as it pertains to, the ethics advisory opinion portion, just to make sure, we word it correctly and that, everything's done in the right way. I don't know. I'm assuming Strauss-Esme does like a review other than just kind of churning out updates.
Do you have a particular issue with the policy as written?
Well, you know what it is. It's more about the about the attending but not ask questions. Consistent with commission advisory opinion. I just want to make sure that we are wording it and just that we get their input. From Strauss-Esme or from Dennis. Yeah, I don't want to kibosh it for today. We'll go ahead with the first reading. And I'm saying, before we have the second reading, we kind of get their opinion.
I made an assumption that Dennis was going to review it.
Yeah, so I just want it known.
So Ken, was the amendment forwarded to Dennis?
Yes.
Yes, it was. Okay, I thought so.
Yes.
So Strauss-Esme is more of a just providing stuff. They don't do a lot of review for you. They just crank out a lot of stuff and we review it, but we will work with Mr. McKeever as we always do in finalizing these things.
Right.
And on that same one, Paula, I'm sorry, I had mentioned to you too, I had concerns with doing it personnel and interviewing. When we're saying interviewing is not allowed, why is it in the title of the policy? Because we're not allowed to interview. So I don't know why that would be in the title.
It's not.
Yes, it is. It says personnel and interviewing.
It is.
Mrs. Ramba, based upon recent ethics committee results, they are permitting board members to be present for interviews.
Present, but we're not interviewing though. Shouldn't be in the title of our thing.
You are attending interviews.
Exactly, but the title doesn't say that.
We can clarify that when we talk to Mr. McKeever and work through the final draft.
Right.
Can I ask a question?
Just so that you know, I just want.
Holly, I'm speaking. I'm sorry. Are we?
I'm sorry. I was trying to get in there, Jolene, and Candy jumped in. So I just wanted to answer Candy. I just wanted to answer Candy, just to let you know that the opinions that I forwarded to Dennis and to Ken and to Paula, all of them called it interviewing committees. I didn't call it interviewing committees because to me it wasn't an interviewing committee if you're just being an observant. However, that's how the ethics committee, the ethics commission, called it. They called it an interviewing committee. I call it personnel.
Okay, it's semantics. Well, Dennis will review what I drafted. I do this, I know how to read ethics opinions. I know how to stay within the lines when I need to.
Right.
But we'll have Dennis bless it for you. And we'll make whatever changes we need to on the second read. I had mentioned that this was going to be on this agenda and that we would be moving ahead with establishing this committee. I mentioned it at the last meeting. So we'll hear from Dennis and on.
Can I just say, Paula, just on that?
Weeks.
Although the last thing you said to me about this committee was that it was moot at the point, and I didn't hear anything else after that.
That it's moot. Holly has been breathing down my back since the reorg, and this was high on her radar screen for the last year or two.
I get that, but when I put in for the committee, you told me that don't worry about it now, the committee is moot. That's the last comment I heard about it.
No, Candy, that when I said it was moot, we were talking about different things. I didn't understand you were talking about personnel.
Okay.
Okay, so.
I'd still like to ask my question.
Oh, yes, really.
I wanted to ask Mr. Rhoda on what he was saying. So are we allowed to interview or we're not allowed? Are we just allowed to sit in or are we allowed to interview?
Elaine, you could review the policy that was drafted. It's very clear.
I'm asking Mr. Rhoda a question. I'd like an answer. Thank you, Mr. Rhoda.
And I'm answering it.
I'm not asking.
Fine.
I think we need a sergeant of arms at the next meeting. Okay, I'll read the policy. Thank you, Paula.
No, but Julene.
It's a yes, no answer.
It's simple. You can't ask questions at interviews. You can be present and observe.
Okay, then a yes or a no would have been suffice. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Paula, just before we move on, Hakisha, you still have a member of the public up as a panelist.
She can take my seat. Just kidding. Bye, Judy. Okay. No, any additional comments are going to be made during old business or new business. Everyone had chances. This isn't the time. We're going to move on and conduct the business, and then you can ask what you'd like, Tanya. So we're going to move on to resolutions. Do I have a motion to? Tanya, you're muted though. I saw you continue. May I have a motion to approve?
I'm not talking.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve 1B?
Motion
Ramba.
Motion Ramba. Who's second?
Second.
Okay. So we seconded by Stasu. Can we have a roll call on 1B?
Ms. Han Silver?
Yes.
Ms. Ramba?
Yes.
Ms. Cho?
Yes.
Ms. Byers-Kane?
Come back to me, please.
Mr. Rubino?
Oh.
Mr. Rubino?
Yes.
Ms. Morrell?
Yes.
Ms. Stasu?
Yes.
Ms. Richter?
Yes.
Ms. Colbath?
Yes.
Ms. Byers-Kane?
Yes.
Motion passes.
May I have a motion to approve item 1 CUR?
Motion.
Second Ramba.
Motion Rubino, second Ramba. Roll call, please.
Ms. Morrell?
Yes.
Ms. Cho?
Yes.
Ms. Richter?
Yes.
Ms. Ramba?
Yes.
Ms. Stasu?
Aren't we postponing this? Is this the calendar? What?
No, that's 2 CUR.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yes.
Ms. Byers-Kane?
Yep.
Mr. Rubino?
Yes.
Ms. Han Silver?
Yes.
Ms. Colbath?
Yes.
Motion passes.
May I have a motion to approve items 1F through 11F?
Motion
Richter.
Second
Ramba. Motion Richter, second Ramba. Roll call, please.
Ms. Cho?
Yes.
Ms. Richter?
Yes.
Ms. Byers-Kane?
Yes.
Ms. Han Silver?
Yes.
Ms. Ramba?
Yes, but I need to abstain on 11F, please.
So noted. Ms.
Thank
Stassi?
you.
Come back to me, please.
Mr.
Oh, a yes on all of it.
Mr. Rubino?
Yes.
Ms. Morel?
Yes, and I abstain on 11F.
Ms. Colback?
Yes, and whoever finagled and got 18 Chromebooks donated from Clifton High School, kudos.
Motion passes.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve items 1P through 11P?
Motion Morel.
Second, Ramba.
Motion Morel, second Ramba. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rubino?
Yes.
Ms. Byers King?
Yes.
Ms. Richter?
Yes.
Ms. Ramba?
Yes.
Ms. Hans Silver?
Yes.
Ms. Morel?
Yes.
Ms. Stasu?
Yes.
Ms. Cho?
Yes.
Ms. Colback?
Yes. Thank you to Rosemary Malone for her 20+ years.
Malone?
What?
Something about Malone, right?
She's Rosemary Malone, the school secretary at the intermediate and middle school, is retiring after 20+ years.
I was like, oh.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve items 1 POL and 2 POL?
Motion Morel.
I'll second it.
Motion Morel, second Rubino.
In the notebook.
Ms.
May-
Byers King?
Yes.
Mr. Rubino?
Yes.
Ms. Morel?
Yes.
Ms. Cho?
Yes.
Ms. Hans Silver?
Yes on 1 POL. I'll abstain on 2 POL.
So noted. Ms. Ramba?
Yes.
Ms. Richter?
Yes.
Ms. Stasu?
Yes.
Ms. Colback?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on. Is there any old business?
Actually, I have a couple questions, Ms. Colbath, if it's okay. Just regarding the ad hoc committee, I know that I had asked last time if we could do a rotation for one of the members if it's possible. And also, will the ad hoc committee be meeting by any chance before the next meeting? And maybe if so, it would be great if maybe they could help work on that roadmap to put that bullet list together. And along those lines, I recognize on our BOE website that the NJDOH COVID-19 health recommendation, it looked like they did update that back in January, but the one that we have up on the website is from August. So if we could get that new information out, perhaps that might be helpful too, because it also talks about the different Cali indexes there too. And then also, did we get the results from the surveys at all? I'm not sure if I missed that in all of the emails that we got or not, but I don't remember seeing an actual comprehensive summary of the surveys that went out.
Yes, Ken, I'll defer to you. I don't think there were results of the surveys circulated, and I don't know what the plan is there.
Yeah, the principals compiled the survey results for each of their buildings and applied it to their building situation. Those are the discussions we've been having to plan moving forward.
And
if I could also kind of add to that, sorry. So once we get the information with regards to how many students would want to return, whether it be 5 days or not, are the teachers aware of what their capacities are for each of their rooms, or is it 12 across the board?
We're working off the 12 number right now.
Thanks.
And Elisa, on the ad hoc, let me speak to Holly and find out, and Ken, about a meeting and the who should attend, and I'll let the entire board know.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Just in response to what Elisa was saying, I know I had communicated with you, Paula, after the last meeting where people had shown interest. I am willing to give up my spot if another board member wishes. I email you enough and Ken enough on a daily basis about things with reopening more and things, so I have no problem stepping aside if somebody else prefers it.
And I will speak to the chair and I'll let all the board, entire board know. Anyone else, old business? Does anyone have new business? So I just want to announce that the high school will have the Dracula, a radio play virtually on March 25th at 7 p.m. I assume there'll be a link at some point. It'll be a couple of days after our next meeting, but just so that people can mark their calendars in the public and on the board. And I would hope at our next meeting, we've discussed it, or it has been circulated, Holly's resolution. I call it Holly's resolution because it was one of her pet projects. The resolution relating to the requirement of accepting the lowest responsible bidder on projects. It comes out of our experience with Dobco and the construction of the intermediate school. So I'm going to ask that be recirculated, and hopefully at the next meeting, we can have a substantive discussion about it, because if we're going to go forward, the resolution subcommittee of NJSBA is going to be meeting at some point soon, and we really want to get in line first. And it's not just send the resolution. It should really be packaged in a way that we explain why it's important in our personal experience. So if we could start that, I'm happy to do the drafting of the letter and things of that sort. But I would like to get the board's input and vote that we really want to move forward with this and send it down to be looked at by the subcommittee.
And I just want to add, I appreciate you giving me the credit, but I got to tell you, Candy was definitely my partner in crime with this. We just got really, really frustrated with everything that was going on, and how we had to kowtow a lot. And we just didn't want other districts to have to go through what we were going through with this one developer. Really bad.
So we will discuss the Rhomba Morel resolution relating to Candy, I totally drew a blank on that, but anyway, hopefully you'll be able to help us package it in a way that it'll get some traction with the folks at NJSBA. Anything else from anyone? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Second, Rubino, all in favor. Dennis.
Aye. Good night,
Thank
you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.